We are Star Trekking across the universe with the one, the only Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. How you doing today, good sir?
I'm doing well, actually. I think today is a good day. It's a very good day if you're a Twilight Zone fan. I'm going to send you to the cornfield.
Oh. Well, also with us is the boss man, Andre. How you doing?
Greetings, everyone. And today is, a good day to catch up on not one, but two Star Trek Discovery episodes, which reminds me of another Klingon proverb that I'm not going to repeat because the algorithm probably wouldn't like it. But you'll catch my drift.
And also with us is the voice of Midnight's Edge, Robert Meyer, or Robert, Rob.
You're Rob.
Rob Shlomo. We have two Robs.
In the words of my avatar, ho ho ho, stick 'em up.
I actually want to make a documentary and have Rob be the narrator. I think you could be
He's got a good narration voice.
Yeah, that new voice that you're going to supplant the guy that does all those other shows.
Did you ever hear the mock trailer? Well, maybe I'll tell you about it off here. But I did a mock trailer with the Lifetime movie guy.
Yeah, he does those kind of voices perfectly.
I love that.
Coming this Christmas to the Hallmark Channel.
But now, if you want to, in a whirl, I'm the guy to come to for that. But
yeah, that's pretty good, man.
Yeah, but anyway, my name is Tom, because I didn't introduce myself, and I'm screwing up everybody else's names already, so might as well just keep going. Speaking of not knowing anybody's names, we watched Discovery, as Andre pointed out. Sort of.
I'm sorry.
I did. The Star Trek Online's Twitter feed popped up on my Twitter feed. Start a sentence with "Okay, Lieutenant Detmer." I said, "Okay." My response to that was, "Okay, Lieutenant Detmer." Oh, that's your name? How come I didn't know that till now? Well, you've been there 3 years. You never say anything. So I mean, that's for God's sake.
Indeed. And also greetings to everyone who is joining this double session of Star Trek Therapy in the chat. We're so glad that you decided to. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we all need to recover from this. And it's just one more episode to go, isn't there? But we have the worst two, or is it more episodes? I don't know how many there are in this.
Oh, no, there's more.
There's 13.
Okay, that was Jesus.
I think
like every single time I'm like I keep on forgetting how many episodes there are. I think it's like selective forgetfulness to protect myself.
Well, just watch it at double speed if you can, Andre. It makes it a little less painful.
Like ripping off the Band-Aid real fast. You mean, right?
Well,
exactly.
Yeah, I was reminded by Mr. Burnett that there's another reason I have to keep frickin' CBS All Access for a little longer because of the stand coming out here. But yeah,
I felt I had to do a show yesterday about this because one of my most favorite things in the world is Stephen King's The Stand.
Yeah,
and CBS All Access has made a 9-part miniseries that has a pretty good cast. That, does anyone know, debuts in 4 days?
Really? No. Well, we've talked about it.
Right?
We've talked about it, but you're right. You reminded me that it's coming out already. It's like, oh crap! Now I got to keep
in 4 days.
All Access longer. Yeah. Now, are they dropping the whole thing at once, or are they doing it week by week?
You know what? I have no idea. But here's the funny thing: The Stand is about a global pandemic that kills 99% of the population of the world. And you would not know this from anything that CBS is telling us. They have not had one mention of the fact.
I don't know if
that's
it's more
the whole
so
thing about this
that they don't want to spend the money, or is it just because they're trying to be we're kind of embarrassed by this?
It's a 9-part miniseries based on Stephen King's Lord of the Rings, and Whoopi Goldberg, an Oscar winner, plays Mother Abigail. You've got one of the Sarsgaards playing Randall Flagg.
Yeah, Randall Flagg.
You would think that they would.
The only other shitty part is got Amber Heard in the damn thing, but
Amber Heard's in it. I mean, you'd think that they would who was in a $1 billion grossing film. There was on December 9th, there was a virtual premiere. I looked for tweets about it, and I found tweets from the brother of the showrunner and 2 other people that saw it. That's it. the LA film pundit community that, the Grace Randolphs of the world, nobody was invited or did this.
Robert, you don't advertise a sinking ship, do you?
But it's 9 episodes.
I know.
It's one of Stephen King's. It's one of my favorite things in the world. CBS All Access, if this is not good, they owe me.
No,
like
Robert,
when I'm in
Stovacor
burning in the afterlife, I'm going to come after these executives. And I'm going to be like, Discovery, Picard, and now you have to move out of the Star Trek realm and you have to desecrate another favorite thing of mine? Who the hell are you people?
Last time I watched the 9-episode miniseries was Ken Burns Baseball. I want to forget that.
Well, no, I can answer who they are. They're cultural locusts and vandals. I believe I have heard a wise man say this once. So, must be something to it.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Doomcock, I believe.
Worst streaming service ever.
No, but you're right, Robert, and I'm actually on your side on this because I brought the stand-up, I don't know, how many half dozen times now, Andre, to you, and you're like, so? You're like, nobody cares. Like, every time I bring it up.
It's amazing to me that we live in a world where no one cares about The Stand. What? But that's where we're at.
Yeah, that's where we're at. And it's entirely true. Like, Tom has brought it up to me. Like, oh, we should do this on The Stand. I'm like, really? Should we? Should we really? Yeah, if you want to, go for it. But
I mean, can we talk about Timothée Chalamet wearing a legendary hoodie at the end of Saturday Night Live? You go for you make sure Warner Brothers knows what they've done to you. I love that. I loved what he did. That's resistance. Stick up for the company that paid for 75% of Dune.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to send a signal. I will see if that signal helps. But yeah. But gentlemen, shall we?
We're talking about Star Trek.
Yeah.
We're trying to do anything.
We're trying to delay it, but like, how much longer can we delay it? Like, people want to see us suffer.
I don't remember what episode 8 was about. Y'all have to remind me.
Yeah. Before we get to, we have a couple of super chats that I just want to go through real quick before we begin the take on Star Trek Discovery. So the first super chat of the day came from Martino Sulomi, who sent us 50 Swiss francs. So thank you so much for that. That's the kind of stuff that keeps the lights on. So anyone wondering, that's the equivalent of roughly $50. And he says, for that, stop STD, use protection.
That's right. Wrap your dick if you don't want to get sick.
Good advice, but not going to help much in this particular case, I'm afraid. But yeah. And then Nightwish Fan 1991 for $5 says, have reached a point where the writing completely Amber Heard's the bed. So yeah.
Amber Heard's the bed. I love that.
Oh yeah, that's been a common phrase around here lately.
Wow.
And Roger Haynes says, for 10 Canadian dollars, actually he says like a super sticker that says wrecked. So we'll see who's wrecked by the end of this. And DB Cooper says for £5 Merry Christmas to all at Midnight's Edge. Well, thank you, and Merry Christmas to everyone watching as well.
DB Cooper came out of hiding to send us a super chat.
Absolutely, he looks good.
We shall see all that.
And happy Hanukkah to those who are celebrating as well, because I believe you are of the Jewish persuasion, are you not, Mr. Burnett?
Yes. Baruch Hu Adonai HaMerah. But I'll tell you something. The DB Cooper thing. Apparently, Loki, as we learned, is DB Cooper. You see him parachute or not even parachute, jump out of an airplane with a bag full of cash. Is that what they're telling us? I love that. That was great.
That trailer. Speaking of, before we get too deep into it, that made me a little bit more interested than I already was in the Loki.
I know, right? Both that and Falcon and Winter Soldier. I'm like, all right, I'm in.
All right, so we got a couple more here, do we not, Andre? We got one.
We got from Roger Haynes. More. Yes, do you want to take that one, Tom?
Robert, I really appreciated everything you said on Doomcock's stream the other night. Preach. Yeah, I surprised the Overlord by dragging Robert into Friday night frolics the other night, and we had some fun for about a half hour, 45 minutes, talking to the Overlord.
Well, I have to thank you, Tom. I mean, one of the great things about you guys here on Midnight's Edge, you've made me part of the family, and I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I thought that stream I loved doing that stream. I thought it was great.
Yes, and I love being like a connector. I love to connect people, so that's always fun. So I'm glad that you guys had fun hearing us chit-chat about Star Trek, and we're going to chit-chat some more today. Insomniac, looks like, sent in the next super chat, says, just talk, guys. We love the content. What's up, RB? I think he means RMB, but yes.
Raw beats per minute. RBM, I love that.
RBM.
I go from 85 to 125 and down again, depending on
RBM, the company for geeks. That's what it sounds like instead of IBM.
RBM. Well, thank you for that. Yes.
Or how many Roberts beats per minute? Yeah, that's weird. Anyway, thank you so much for the super chats, guys. Now comes the portion of the show where we dread.
Yeah.
Now we have to get down to business.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do the summary of not this week's episode, but last week's episode, because we are one episode behind.
Yeah, you're gonna have to help me out because I think I poked my brain with a Q-tip or something to forget it.
Yeah, I've mostly forgotten it too, but I seem to recall that it was like that we went with to Book's home planet, and we saw his adopted family.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Called brothers and everything like that, and then Michael Burnham came along and told them, "Why can't you all just be friends?" or something else stupid.
Well,
like
no, the one was his biological brother.
Yeah, I know.
Half brother, I think, but yeah,
they're all half brothers. They're all like making families out of complete strangers, basically. And then they all basically decided, oh yeah, Michael Burnham is so awesome. She's of course right at everything. We're just going to be friends. And at the same time, back at Discovery, Translate Crusher decided it was offensive to be called she, and they much preferred to be referred to as they. That's what I remember.
They
stopped. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was about to say they just stopped the episode dead in its tracks. To say that, you really come on.
1,000 years in the future, a non-binary person tells a gay man what pronouns to use.
Yeah, and then they become besties after that.
But I'm like, you're telling the one person in the universe who is immediately your ally how he should treat you. 1,000 years from now. You know, I did a show this week, and I read from the Star Trek The Next Generation Bible that Roddenberry wrote about what a Star Trek story should be about. And he says that our characters have transcended all of humanity's problems, all of our shortcomings, and we're beyond that because you have to be beyond that to be out there on the final frontier. So to play identity politics 1,000 years in the future is the antithesis of Star Trek. It is the very opposite of what Gene Roddenberry thought about. And Star Trek Discovery, you know, someone said it's a rebuke of what Roddenberry was doing in the original series. I would say that Star Trek Discovery is the most tone-deaf and brain-dead iteration of Star Trek. It is the antithesis of everything Gene Roddenberry wanted, and I'm sure he is rolling in his grave.
No, I think you're right. Even though it didn't, or who am I thinking of? Was it his ashes that were shot out into space, or was it somebody else's?
No, his were.
Okay, that's what I thought. So he's spinning in space right now.
Yeah, he's spinning in his grave or space or where. Yeah, either way, he's not comfortable.
I knew what he meant, but I was like trying to remember. I'm like, isn't he shot into space? Yeah.
The pandering of this show, and I'm not somebody that usually. I find it offensive, to be honest. I really do, and the way they play this kind of politics, the way they've normalized a genocidal, they've basically taken Adolf Hitler and made her redeemable, which is
that's
shocking.
More this episode, this recent one. But no, going back to the last episode, because there is really no story to that last episode.
It's those two things.
No, like the end of the story is, Michael
carry
Burnham
on.
says, "Why don't you two work together? You're brothers. If you work together, you'll be stronger." Like one of the oldest fucking messages ever, like Saturday morning cartoon messages in this shit, folks. Like that's the level of this crap. I felt like I was watching like the Star Trek cartoons. This is even bad for like that level. You know what I'm saying?
We'd be crossing the Captain Planet territory.
Beastmaster is 10 times more.
The
like,
end of
believable.
G.I. Joe, the animated series. You know, when you learned the lesson, when someone stood up and said, "Well, was
now we know, and knowing's half the battle." Yeah,
that's exactly right.
Yeah, it's like really. There's only two things that I even remember for the episode, and that was that. It was like again, Michael Burnham said something completely obvious that should come as no surprise to them. But of course, since she said it, was a great revelation that no one else had ever thought about before. And the whole Translate Crusher and the message that had to be injected on screen right there. So and I don't really have much else to say about the episode. It was
I'm having
bad.
I'm having flashbacks to the old Channel 9 Howard Stern show when George Bush was playing golf with the Ramones, and all they kept saying was, "Wow, Mr. President, you're so great. Oh, I'm so glad you're here, Mr. President. We could have never thought of that." You know, it's like everything is just like, "Oh, Michael Burnham, oh, you're so great. Why couldn't we? Oh, how can we ever thank you?" It's just. Are they ever going to run out of scenarios where she cannot easily just come in and sweep whatever problem is under the rug? I'm wondering. I mean, is there no bottom to this?
No, because we've gotten to the point where it's literally past like soap opera bad. In this last episode, I was watching it and I felt like I was watching a soap opera.
Well, I just feel that I'm being talked down to.
That's what I mean. Like,
I really do. I feel like
melodramatic bullshit.
But also, the writers are putting themselves in a position where they're saying, "We know more than you do, audience, and let us show you and tell you what you need to know." You know, Star Trek didn't used to tell you what you were supposed to think. It told you what you should think about. And this show, it is so condescending to me as an intelligent viewer. Forget that I've been a Star Trek fan my whole life, but the way they talk down to the audience and do not serve storytelling is, to me, it's actually offensive. And I'm like, I am tired of being talked down to by the people that are making Star Trek. They never used to do this, and it is. As these episodes go by, I'm like, I'm offended. I'm offended by it. I really am. And I think that it's shameful.
Yeah, because I mean, actually, if you take out the them they scene in the episode 8, the one we're kind of talking about right now, and if you allowed the brothers to figure it out on their own as opposed to having Mikey explain it to them, that episode probably would have been the least offensive one of the least offensive ones we've had so far. This last one though was just a fucking doozy. And so like I think, Andre, the best thing we can do is probably sum up what we felt about episode 8, because it really was a shit episode to really get into.
But this whole kind of like shamanistic spirit warrior guide stuff they're having Book do. What? There's no place for that in Star Trek.
No,
there really isn't.
And they're relegating him to a well-worn trope that I think is the antithesis of what they want it to be. Right. And they don't know that they're doing it.
The magical, you know what? Yeah.
Well, not only that, and you brought up the point too. They keep segregating their characters, not just by race, but by, you know, you've got keep the gays together, keep this together, you know, and it's getting really nuts at how they're treating this show. And
what's interesting is, you know, a lot of people talk about how you look at The Expanse, and The Expanse is a show that has a very diverse cast, a lot of mixed race people, and it's great. and I love it. Avasarala, you have an Iranian actress playing the president of the world, essentially, and she's great. And then you've got all of these characters. They never step up and go, look at us. Let us wear our diversity on our sleeves. But like all good science fiction, you've got the Belters, you've got Mars, you've got Earth. They could be proxies for whatever you want them to be, but they're doing that in a very interesting sci-fi context that makes sense, and it's thought-provoking and interesting. Whereas Star Trek Discovery, it feels like the writers fall over themselves to see, like, how can I virtue signal this episode? And it is a perversion of what Star Trek used to be and what it was set up to do, which is all of this should be matter of fact. You should not have a camera pushing in going, I'm non-binary, use these pronouns. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, what? This is not what Star Trek is. Star Trek was showing us what a world beyond that was supposed to be. Humanity, by Roddenberry's own words, are more advanced. We figured that stuff out. You don't need to be told it certainly not in the 32nd century.
No, I totally agree. And that's one of the biggest problems with the show, is that it's not even anywhere close to what Roddenberry had, planned for Star. And I get, like, there's ways like Star Trek The Next Generation and other shows past that kind of did, even some of the movies kind of went beyond what Roddenberry's original ideas were, but they at least still had held true to the idea that, we had gotten past all this bullshit, and humanity was now, off seeking the stars, seeking what was out there in the stars, because they've gotten past all our hangups here on Earth.
Yeah.
Not just technologically, but you know what I mean? Like, it was a way of us going out and seeing what else is out there, because we've gotten past ourselves.
Apparently not. Not on this show.
Oh,
Everyone's in
not on this
21st
show.
century. I mean,
you were saying, though, Robert, and it says, do you feel like the show's talking down to what was Gene Roddenberry's prime directive, though, when writing Star Trek? Do you remember that one? There was intelligent life on the other side of the camera. They apparently don't. That's out the window. That's right out the window.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think the reason people love Star Trek to begin with is it presupposed great empathy and caring and intelligence on the part of the audience. This show does not. The way it wantonly just kills people willy-nilly, and then the way it panders to the audience by talking down to us.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
Well, and as I was going to say, like, we might as well just kind of give our final thoughts on episode 8 and move on to episode 9. Andre, did you have anything else you wanted to say about the Booker episode?
I have only one word to say about the whole thing: boring.
In the words of Charles,
that's pretty much it.
In the words of Charles Barkley, that's terrible.
Terrible
Knucklehead. Terrible knucklehead.
Robert?
Well, they create a scenario where two intelligent men are at odds with one another in a galaxy in decline. And it's like, this is one of the things that is a pet peeve of mine for modern dramatists, where they create false or narratives I don't buy into simply to create a generic. What they were trying to do is, two brothers, maybe not blood brothers, have a rift between them. This is the most basic, most like fundamental story idea that might have been new 500 years ago. But to play this story out, I mean, it was the oldest, laziest,
for fuck's sake.
I mean, it was so dumb and so uninteresting and so not worthy of Star Trek. And to make that, I mean, look, they already did. You want to see the ultimate brothers at odds? That episode happened the second season of the second episode of the fourth season of TNG. It was called Family, when Picard went home and was estranged from his brother, or maybe Star Trek V. But that was it. You've already told that story in Star Trek. And to go and tell this half-baked, ridiculous version of it that's all contrived is just, it's not worthy of the franchise. And it's certainly, remember, most people have to pay to watch this show.
Yeah.
So give me a break. Give me a break. You writers, shame on you. Shame on you and your lazy storytelling.
I'd even go farther than that, Robert. In a way, I'd almost argue that the whole Vulcan Romulan thing is the same fucking dichotomy, really.
Oh yeah, it's because you know why? It's so easy. There's no creativity here. I mean, God, I wish I could give the Discovery Writers Room 25 canonical Star Trek books. I mean, I'm not Star Trek books, science fiction novels that aren't Star Trek books, just to show you how to write science fiction. I mean, whether it's Dune, whether it's Earth Abides, whatever, Childhood's End, whatever. Just read a science fiction novel, anything that Peter Hamilton's written. It's like I feel like I'm getting a generic CBS procedural that has the most basic of tropes, because that's all they know how to write.
I don't know who pointed this out. I can't remember who. I was watching somebody and they said, "Do you know?" Maybe it was you. Did you notice that all the action on CBS procedurals all the discussion takes place around a table, and now they discuss around a table, and then they go decide what to do.
That was Anti-Trekker.
It was Anti-Trekker, yeah. Oh yeah, okay. It was Anti-Trekker, and he brought up another point which we'll get into, actually too. So, but yeah, it does feel like the most basic CBS procedural dramas, and enough of the whisper acting. I don't think anything is important or has any impact. If you say it in a whisper like this, it doesn't become any more important. It doesn't become any more significant. Stop it, please. Speak
Unless you're Woody Allen, it does.
Yeah, well, because I don't know what to do here.
Well, this might as well be Star Trek written by Woody Allen and be a hell of a lot more interesting.
That at least we would have fun with the tropes.
I don't
and
like
with everything.
meeting new aliens. I always get a cold. I always get a funny cold after I meet a new alien. I don't understand.
No, guys. No, you want to point that face away from me? Go over there. Maybe make some.
Make sure they're all on stun. I mean, can we do this, please?
No beam of energy should ever enter my body.
I don't like beaming.
Yeah.
By the way, I have to say that in the live chat, I can't even pronounce the name. Luverian Makara has a great list of science fiction books and authors. Alfred Bester, Ray Bradbury, Ursula K. Le Guin, James Tiptree Jr., by the way, a woman, David Brin, Connie Willis. The list goes on and on. Whoever you are, we park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay.
That's right.
Well,
and yeah, go ahead.
No, God. You're.
Well, I was going to move us on to the next point.
Please do. I'm losing brain cells.
Well, and as bad as episode 8 was, 9 got even worse. Like, I mean, we've gotten so far past. Like, I mean, the ham in this episode, I could smell it through the television. The whole convoluted setup, the whole idea, the whole situation of it all. I feel bad for the actress who plays Georgiou. Her name has just escaped me now.
Michelle
Yeoh, who's amazing.
Exactly. Like, I mean, she was actually given the spotlight in this episode, and I felt bad for her. This is the best they could do for her. Well, so yeah, I don't know if Andre wants to give us a quick synopsis. But.
Well, quick synopsis of that one is basically we've earlier seen that something is wrong with Georgiou. We haven't been told exactly what, but now we know, and I will give them credit for this. That since she comes from the mirrored universe,
this is the most science fiction-y thing they actually did in the show.
And this is actually something that is consistent with actual science. So I will give them a point for this. That basically, since she is from another universe, her DNA, her fundamental atom makeup, doesn't agree with being in this universe because the laws of physics and everything is just slightly off a little bit. Now, it was slightly off before, but then she went and she traveled 1,000 years forward in time. So she's not only displaced in universe, she's displaced in time. And those two things, that's apparently beyond some kind of threshold. So she starts facing, dissolving, and is only getting worse. So they have to get her back again. And they decide, no, there's nothing we can do. But of course, the magical computer of the Enterprise, the one that's taken over,
computer,
that no one, the God computer, that one tells them, yeah, you check out this planet right here. And
literally a Deus ex machina. The Discovery has become a Deus ex machina, where anything that you need to have solved, the ship itself can do.
How amazing is that? So anyway, they then decide, yeah, okay, let's go to this place because of course, and then you have like some contrived Vulcan dialogue before, like, the needs of the many must outweigh the needs of the few on this one occasion. Yeah, some crap like that. But in the end, they go to the Guardian of Forever, and she steps through the door and gets right back into the mirrored universe, right back into her role as Emperor. But she steps back in time from her own perspective. So she meets Mirror Burnham on the eve of Mirror Burnham betraying her. And now she knows what is to come. And she has learned to respect Saru in our universe, in our prime universe. And now she meets up with him again in her timeline, in the Mirror universe, where he is chef recommends on the menu. And what's that going to do to their relationship? And on top of that, she now suddenly struggles with being evil and mean because she's learned to be good. And on that note, of course, everyone in the Discovery are really, really all for her and have learned to love her and respect her and view her as part of the family, even though she would kill them all first chance to get. So, yeah, I think that's the gist of the story. If anyone wants to add to that,
no, I think you hit the main point, Andre, and that's what bothered me about this whole fucking thing was that you had Georgiou, who's been such a mustache twisting fucking character this whole time, finally growing a conscience when she goes back to her, her dimension. And it's like, okay, like it would have been nicer if this was kind of earned and you actually treated this character unlike some kind of comic book villain. And I don't mean that in a condescending way, but I do mean that in the, standard kind of trope terms. And I'm sure Robert knows what I mean by that and can probably expand.
Well, no, I mean, the funny thing about this is, someone from the mirror universe, the idea of the mirror universe is not like, it's not just that you're not just evil. Your morality is reversed. Your morality is different. So it's not like, if you choose to steal, you don't steal because you're a good person. Your entire morality, your entire worldview is a different worldview. And the way that the mirror universe has been portrayed, in my mind, has not had a lot of nuance or understanding to it. And I think the way that they're like, someone from the mirror universe is not going to just become good because you've hung out on the Discovery. Your entire worldview, the way you see everything, is different, and and the way they have written her is so one note, and it shows a complete lack of understanding, in my mind, to what exactly this is all about. And it's not like she can't be redeemed, because that would say that she doesn't. Her character is not about redemption. She is totally alien and different. She is the exact opposite from us. There is no redemption to be had there because she's from the mirror universe. Spock, as a character, could, because as a Vulcan in Mirror Mirror, when Kirk says, the illogic of waste, Mr. Spock, find a reason for sparing the Hulkins and make it stick. Kirk is appealing to his logic. His essence is different, but Vulcans are still logical people. Now, this idea that Georgiou is some villain that can be brought back from the brink, that's so wrong-headed. She'll never change who she is because the universe she comes from does not have our morality. And so what they've done is they've made all this so one note, and we're watching a cliche villain redemption arc, which is, again, a fundamental lack of understanding of what the mirror universe actually is. And it drives me berserk. I'm like, why is this show so dumb? It could be so much smarter, but it's not. And I hate it for that.
Hard to argue with any of that. Well, the other thing, too, we noticed is that we got final... I don't know. Can we call it confirmation, Tom, Andre, that this is actually we got the smoking gun we were looking for, didn't we? Wouldn't you say that, Tom?
Are you in reference to like the contracts and stuff like that, like the
pretty much
Kelvin?
Yes, actually, Anti-Trekker picked up on it, and Robert shared it along.
Which part do you mean?
About we have. This is the first time they've actually made direct reference to anything happening in the Kelvin timeline.
Yeah. Oh, because I do remember him saying something about Prime timeline in this.
Yeah, they made because again here they refer to our timeline as Kelvin, which of course, as we have established, that's an invention of the alternate license that this is part of. In the original Star Trek, there's no such thing, but here you have the separation between Prime, which is not where the original adventures of Kirk.
Okay, so then I must have missed this then.
What is there? No, because it's a scene where they talk about like this one time traveler, the other one that was like displaced.
Yeah, I must have missed what you're saying though. So you're gonna have to.
And they said that he came from a timeline where that was started by a Romulan mining ship.
Oh yes,
yeah.
And it's Dr. David Cronenberg was telling that to Dr. Ricky, whatever his name is.
Okay, so what you're saying then is they finally confirmed what we've been saying all this time. Okay, got
it. They've
have a little mishap.
Sort of. No, that's all right, sir. No problem.
No. Confirmed that maybe that's maybe pushing it because they didn't do anything to like disprove, but they certainly added credibility to our earlier scoops, saying that this is all part of the same.
So, in other words, all those Facebook groups and all the YouTubers that have called us a bunch of shills and liars and all this other bullshit, and every other name under the book, they're going to apologize to us. Gotcha. And monkeys are going to fly out of my butt.
If I'm shilling, I'm missing a few checks. Come on, guys. Yeah.
No. I'm kidding. Like I said, I know. They ain't gonna give us no fucking credit. No fucking way.
But this whole thing, though, I mean, they beam down to this planet. Of course, like I said, okay, they beam down to this planet. Of course, they have to walk a mile or two to get to where they need to go. And Michael Burnett has the Iron Man holograms in front of her. What is this fixation with Iron Man and then the holograms and waving your hands? And I don't
Kurtzman wants to be
because that's something that's already been done.
Yeah,
so they can look at it and go, "Oh, we need it like this." Let's not make it original to us. Star Trek used to trailblaze. It set the tone. It became influential. Now all Star Trek is, modern Star Trek, is just an amalgamation of other people's work. There's nothing original about any of it. Even the Discovery herself was designed by Ken Adam and Ralph McQuarrie back in the 70s for the movie Star Trek Planet of the Titans that never happened. And at first, when Brian Fuller wanted to do it, he wanted to use round nacelles and make it look like it belonged in the Trek universe, which I loved. I thought that was a great idea. But the current producers of the show probably don't know that's the case. And so, and by the way, the study models for the Discovery are canonical. They appeared in Star Trek 3. They appeared in the Battle of Wolf 359 in TNG. But then they decided, yeah, we don't like round nacelles. That's too 1960s. So let's change it. And all of that design lineage that had been part of Star Trek for decades was thrown out the window, like the rest of Star Trek.
But the whole thing, yeah. And those Ralph McQuarrie paintings are actually fantastic. I love those.
Yeah.
But anyway, this whole thing, like I said, they meet this little dude, this little old dude with a
Captain
bowler
Brooks
hat
from CSI.
Yep. With a bowler hat, smoking a cigar in the middle of nowhere, sitting beside a door, reading the paper. The Star Dispatch, as if they're sitting there elbowing you. Get it? Star Dispatch, it's just
from City on the Edge of Forever.
Exactly, yeah. I was like,
and why would? Okay, so everyone's going to say, the writers will say, what we're doing is we're showing you Harlan Ellison's original conception of The Guardian as he wrote it in the original script that he was heavily rewritten. Yes, by Dorothy Fontana. And the reason he was heavily rewritten is because his script would not have flown on TV, and it certainly wouldn't have flown on Star Trek. But now what they've done is they've gone back and strip mined the original Harlan Ellison City on the Edge of Forever script. And that I'm sure they think they're really clever, but in a post Doctor Who world, and you're going to make somewhat surreal, puckish. There's no explanation. The Guardian of Forever wouldn't it have been cool? Can you imagine what it might have been like if they beamed down and you saw the actual Guardian as portrayed in City on the Edge of Forever? How cool would that have been? But no. They're like, we're going to go back to Harlan Ellison's original conception of the character that's like a dude from the 19th or 20th century wearing. Why would the Guardian of Forever choose to look like somebody from Earth? Why would he have anticipated them showing up? The Guardian says in Star Trek, the original series, since before your sun burned hot in the sky, I have awaited a question. And yet, this guy apparently knows they're coming. Why would he? Why would, because you know why? Michael Burnham is Space Messiah. So apparently even the Guardian of Forever is only paying attention to what Michael Burnham is doing.
Yeah.
It makes no sense at all.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me about talking about like Q showing up on Lower Decks. It makes no sense. It's like you really are getting me to stretch to believe that Q gave enough shit about them, or that in this case the Guardian gives enough shit. But of course, as we know, and we've been saying this since the start, Michael Burnham is the key to everything. And now it's getting to that point where it's like a literal key, like a key to the yeah.
And why? Because reasons. And why? Oh, just because. She just is. No reason. She has to be. Oh, well, you got a problem with that? I'm like, yeah, actually I do.
And her acting in this episode, my God, was it? We lost Robert.
I think we gave him an aneurysm.
I think so.
Thinking about this,
I think it spilled it. I don't think it went the weird.
I think he spilled something or something is what happened before. But no, go ahead. What were you saying, Andre?
Yeah, no, I was about to say if anyone gave him an aneurysm, it was the writers of this show, because it's like, again, it's just more Burnham worship. It's as Robert points out, it's more worship of Space Jesus.
Little spillage.
No, my just furious anger.
Oh, okay.
He hit a wrong button.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't hit anything. I literally was. I was sitting here. My hands are in my lap. I feel that something just happened. I must have influenced. I must have beamed my anger across the galaxy the way Michael Burnham beamed her desire to the Guardian of Forever.
The mental energy overwhelmed your setup there.
Okay, but let's not forget about like this mental powers that she has. I mean, she was like able to force Skype calls with Sarek, just like Ray and the dude in Rise of Skywalker could like force sext each other. That she has like that
Can
ability.
You put your shirt on?
No. I mean, Vulcans are touch telepaths.
Yeah,
they
we
can't.
brought that up before. Yeah,
but
yeah.
I would think that you would actually have to biologically be a Vulcan able to do it. I don't think that that's something that a human can ever learn, no matter how much they train for it.
Not according to Picard, because now even androids can learn the mind meld.
Yeah.
No,
they should license a great 80s song. You have the touch.
Yeah, love that song.
From
but then people would
Transformers?
say you can't cross the Transformers over with Star Trek.
Except they totally did in the comics, and it was awesome.
It was. Hey, look! Shout out to IDW. They can cross over Trek with Planet of the Apes, with Green Lantern, with the Transformers, with Doctor Who, and I'm all in.
I have to say,
the people that are writing those comics are better writers than the TV writers are.
Yeah, and for those that do not know what we're talking about, the writers of IDW, they crossed over the Transformers G1 with Star Trek, the animated series. Not Lower Decks, the real Filmation Star Trek animated series. Like the real Year 4 and Year 5. That was pretty awesome. And also, speaking of that, before we carry on, if you haven't read it, check out Transformers versus Mars Attacks. It's sheer beauty.
That sounds interesting.
Is that real?
Yeah, it's real.
I love it.
Interesting. But anyway, what wasn't very interesting was the acting in this episode. I mean, again, Michelle Yeoh did the best with what she had, but this episode was just.
Well, she didn't have much to work with.
Oh God! And I was watching it with Mecca, and we both broke out laughing when they had that stupid crown on her head, and the long, convoluted Mel Brooks-esque introduction. I mean, she's getting a new title every freaking time she shows up. Like you said, it literally sounds like Mel Brooks wrote it. I kept.
That sounds like Idi Amin wrote it, because she has more titles than Idi Amin.
Oh my
God. The great
God.
empire and the bestest ever of the universe, all knowing.
Yeah. Well, also, with her knowledge of the future, she steps on board the ship and allows all of this stuff to happen around her. You'd think she would step on board the ship and go, I know what's happening, so here's how it's going to go, people. I know you're plotting against me. I know Lorca sleeps in your bed. And in front of everyone, that's going to end. And let her be an empress, like Empress Sato at the end of In a Mirror Darkly in Enterprise. She acts like she's waiting for all this stuff to happen, and then she acts. If I were her, she would have relished this. She has knowledge of the future. Someone from the mirror universe knowing who's conspiring against them, she would have been loving this and putting everyone in their place. And instead, she has to wait and let them all react.
Robert, she caught feelings going against everything you said before, which is the whole point of the mirror universe. Is it's a completely different ideal.
Yeah, the morality from the very the beginning. And what they've done is they've tried to make Georgiou one of us, but she's not. And this is where science fiction comes into play. Great science fiction writers have to extrapolate upon known facts. And if a character like Georgiou, our mirror Georgiou, her entire morality has been different from the time she was born. And so she can't be influenced by us the way other people might be, because the very basis of her being is also a mirror of ours. So the way you appeal to her has to be fundamentally different than it happens here. And so what would have been more interesting is if Michael Burnham had figured out this and figured out a way to appeal to her that came out of her universe. I mean, her own experience crossing over or whatever. Did she not learn anything? No, it's just the standard, hey man, human beings are good people. Here's what you need to know. No, they did nothing clever, because if you want to get to somebody from the mirror universe, you need to appeal to a mirror universe denizen the way they would need you to appeal to them.
Yeah, kind of
What
like how Riker did in that episode with the Klingons.
The Klingons, yes. You know what? Exactly. And that was in the second fucking season of Next Generation. Yep. And that's when the writers knew how to write Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly right, man. That is exactly right. Great example.
Klingon challenged Riker on the bridge. He smacked him upside the head. That's
right.
What they respond to.
Yep.
Yep, and he's like eating their food just like it ain't no business, and he's doing everything. He played that like a fucking pro, and that's the kind of character we should be having out of Georgiou. I agree with you 110%. Like
that's exactly right.
Like she knows exactly the situation she's in, and she would have played it like a Godfather. Like she would have come in and like knew exactly and played it all close to the chest. Like I mean, actually, kind of like the scene with her and Saru. Like that bit wasn't so bad. Her kind of getting the info she needed to kind of fill in whatever little blank she had so she could do whatever. But the way she played it out, like you said, it was completely stupid.
But also she would know, she's like, you know what? Kelpians in this universe are pathetic creatures. She's not going to suddenly be like,
yeah,
well,
that was a little off.
In an alternate universe where everything is different, everything is mirrored or everything is different than it was. Why would she suddenly develop affection just because the Saru in our universe? That's not the Saru. That's a totally
and the way I
different
thought would have
person.
been better is if she was basically using him, knowing full well that this Kelpian's not going to cross her. That's the way I was kind of seeing it at first. But then, yeah, you're right. Like they kept entering this thing where, oh no, she grew some fifis in the other dimension. You know, again, fundamentally showing, like you were saying originally, they don't understand this whole idea of the alternate world, you know, the Terran Empire.
She would have used this knowledge to become the ultimate baller in this universe. She would have come back and fucking wrecked, can I say that? Wrecked shop.
Hell
she would
yeah.
not have put up with this whole, we're watching all this. I'm watching this episode. I'm thinking, oh, now she's back in her own element. And we just have to wait for her to like, she would have come back. And they should have replayed the sword scene when she doesn't kill Burnham, and she should have just beheaded someone, telling us that she hasn't learned anything. She's exactly the same person who she would be,
right?
And it was such a misunderstanding of the whole idea.
Well, no, you're right. It needed that. I knew it was you, Fredo scene, and they didn't have that necessarily. It was just kind of lumped in there, and then you got.
She should have cut off Burnham's head
exactly
to mirror what had happened before.
Yeah, and then like it's just all like completely like the way it goes down, and that was what I was talking about when you popped out was her acting there. Sonequa Martin Green's acting is just so bad in that. I don't understand what they were doing there.
Well, I think that she only has like two ranges of acting. It'll really start like maybe with in a different.
I keep hearing from everybody she's some great actress, Andre. Not to interrupt, but that's what I keep hearing is she's some great. I have not seen it. I did not watch The Walking Dead.
So here she comes in two varieties, and that's either completely stoic or completely hysterical, with really nothing in between. So yeah, and you know why I think that they didn't behead her in the mirrored universe, which of course would have been the right, the decent, and the moral thing to do in that universe. I mean, it's so ridiculous that, as you pointed out, Robert, that she is from the mirrored universe, where just like morals are turned upside down. Then she's been in our universe, for lack of a better term, and then she has suddenly come to realize the error of her ways. Just twist it the other side around. If you had like a character from our universe go to the mirror universe, spend some time there, would they come back and then suddenly bring with them the morals and values from the mirror universe? Like,
nope.
This guy, he spilled coffee on me. I really have to behead him right now to set an example for everyone else.
No, and they actually showed that with Georgiou. She had to temper herself. She knew she was smart enough to know she couldn't act out like a fool. You know, she's smart enough to know to look around her surroundings and realize what the fuck's going on. Exactly. And again, and I think that, you know, Robert's 100% correct. She would have went back and played this like a Godfather. She knew exactly who the fuck it was that fucked her over. She knew exactly what was going to go down. This is her moment to go up there and basically peacock and and gain the respect back that she had obviously lost, that she had learned that she had lost in the process of this whole thing. Because I mean, that's the real kind of thing that was really beating her down, really, if you stop and think about it, because she found herself being weak over Michael Burnham. Well, in her universe, her Michael Burnham just turned on her.
That's exactly right. Her Michael Burnham has no other, aside from the fact, and here's what they don't get, the writing staff doesn't get. Aside from the fact that they look exactly alike, there is no, let's call it the Prime universe. There is no Prime universe at all in Michael Burnham. There, not at all. Aside from she grew up in the same different morals and all that as everyone else. You can't. There's no comparison between somebody from the mirror universe and us, aside from that we look alike. You can't appeal. What Kirk did at the end of Mirror Mirror was appeal to the Vulcanness of Spock. That Vulcans did adopt this ideology of logic. So Kirk went for that because the logic in both universes is the same. But Michael Burnham from our universe or the mirror universe, they have no bearing. One is not at all like the other. So the idea that Georgiou's like, well, I'm going to spare this Michael Burnham because maybe she'll be like the one I've been so influenced by, makes no sense. That's not how it works.
That's
how it
exactly
works.
what I was getting at.
And she should have fucking beheaded her.
Exactly. Like I said, like, you know, I keep going back to it, but it should have been that scene in The Godfather 2, where he learns, and not even 10 minutes after he learns that it was Fredo that fucked him over, he walks right up to him and goes, I knew it was you, Fredo, and you broke my heart. And he fucking kills him. His own fucking brother. That's what Georgiou should be in this show. Like somebody who's so fucking ruthless that when she got back there, you're right. That's what I was getting at. She shouldn't have fucking hesitated. She kind of did in that one scene with Stamets, which I'm like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. But then you had the whole fucking hallway scene with Tilly and fucking Burnham, and it just fell apart right there. It's like, no,
I had forgotten about that one scene. Is it wrong of me if my favorite moment in Star Trek, in all of Star Trek Discovery, was seeing that guy like basically stabbed in the neck in that one scene?
Yeah, but what's even more insidious? Kill the white gay man.
Yeah.
But keep the black woman alive.
Yeah, even better.
I mean, and because this show is it's played identity politics for every time they make decisions like this, I think to myself, wow, you guys are really pushing it because you're not treating. You want to be equal. You're not equal. What you choose to do on this show is insidious. The writers of Discovery are insidious. Their idea of inclusion has a hierarchy. It's fucking scary to me because they tell you that these people should be over here. These people should be up front. You can kill this guy because he's gay, but he's a white dude. And don't kill the person that you should kill because she already betrayed you once. But oh, wait. I mean, the politics of this show is off the charts insidious and crazy.
Well, and I think that's the problem with this mirror universe. You know what it is, Robert. You know why there's such, mustache twisting villains in this mirror universe is I feel like they see this mirror universe as the conservatives.
We're us.
Yeah. And the other people who don't agree with the mind think. Exactly. I mean, I'm not trying to say it's all conservatives, but yeah, it's the non mind think that they have of this, throwing everything out there. And that's why they're treating them the way they are. They're totally misunderstanding the type of characters they are. Like another great example is they would totally misunderstand an episode like Space Seed. Like, how it ends, Kirk had every right to destroy him and kill him because he tried killing him, tried taking him to ship, all this other shit. But no, instead he lets him live, puts him on a planet and said it'll be interesting to see in, however many years it is, it says in like 20 years, what seed. Yeah, or Spock says that. Yeah, what seed will grow from what we planted here today? I butchered the fucking line and I apologize.
But
yeah,
you know what? That's you just brought up. That's an incredible example of Star Trek because Kirk knows that yeah, I could haul these people back to the Federation, to Earth, and they'd have to go through the rigmarole. But Kirk realized that these are people out of time. There's no way that they could deal with the ridiculous bureaucracy or the 23rd century rigmarole they'd have to go through. And he knew, he's like, you know what?
Exactly. Yeah.
And they say earlier in the episode, we admired him. And as leader of a quarter of the world's population, there was no, Spock says, well, all people under one whip. But Scotty says, I've always admired him. You know, there was no, he wasn't executing people. You know, he was elevating people. And so Kirk knew, he's like, you know what? I'm going to find you a planet and I'm going to give you a world to conquer. And Spock's like, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Because he knew that you can't, these people were out of time. Our morality and what we think is different, they'll never buy into it. And by Kirk giving him SETI Alpha 5 was him respecting Khan, respecting who and what he was, and understanding that he needs to find his own way. And what Khan did in Space Seed, he just wakes up. In his mind, he left Earth in 1996, put in suspended animation, and then wakes up 300 years later. He's still of the mindset he was in 1996. That's where his mind was at. And Kirk knows, yeah, give him a planet, give him a world to win. Nothing we could do would be better than having him try and tame a planet. And let me tell you, Nicholas Meyer's 3-part SETI Alpha 5 miniseries that I thought was quite brilliant, that I reviewed on my show, that apparently they're developing without Nicholas Meyer, which isn't surprising because they fucked him over on the second episode he wrote for Discovery. They should make that. Nicholas Meyer should direct it. They should bring him back. They should tout it, because CBS All Access could do very well to bring back a true auteur to work on Star Trek.
No, I agree 100%. And that's the reason I brought up that episode, because I knew you'd make that point. And that's what I'm getting at. These writers don't see the mirror universe the way they should. And the way that Kirk and Spock saw Khan is the way that these writers should be looking at the mirror universe characters and respecting them and understanding where they come from, not treating them as some token conservative stand-in, is what I was getting at from the start. And I knew, even though I butchered the end of the episode, I knew you'd get my point.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, they're writing these characters in the most black and white, rudimentary way possible. Oh, let's make them a cannibal. They're going to eat Kelpians. I mean, the way the mirror universe, as it's portrayed in Star Trek Discovery, is fifth grade level. It is so rudimentary. It is so dumb. It is so dumb. I wish all of them. David Mack, who's one of my favorite Star Trek novelists, and yes, I know people are, oh, Rob, you have favorite Star Trek novelists? Yes, I do. And you know what? David Mack wrote 2 books, Sorrows of Empire and Rise of Lions. Read those 2 books. They are so much better and so much more sophisticated than the garbage that they are shoveling out to us. It is so frustrating to have read great mirror universe stories that were written by novelists who should be writing for the show. Indeed, they should just adapt their work, because what we're getting is the most rudimentary bullshit ever. And it is incredibly frustrating to watch. Sorry.
Absolutely. No, don't be sorry. Do not apologize in the least.
Yeah, never apologize.
Never apologize.
I mean, what's frustrating is
step on someone's toes.
This material exists. It's out there. You know, it's out there. You can buy it. I have it on my shelf right here. If you want to go into the mirror universe, read David Mack's work. They made a whole anthology, multiple anthologies about the mirror universe. Read them. They're already owned by CBS. And by the way, when you steal ideas from these writers, and they have, give them credit. Give them credit. Give these writers credit. They don't make royalties from this stuff. It's a one-time payment. They have stolen so much work in Discovery and Picard from other writers. Give them credit. Marvel does. in the end credits, they give money and they pay and they give credit to the writers that they're drawing from.
But I think a lot of the stuff going forward is what they're trying to get away from, is the stuff they have to credit too many people for. But yeah, no, I think you're 100% right, Robert. I do. I really do. Andre, did we have some super chats? We should probably catch up on
We
super
do
quick.
have a couple of super chats. We have quite a few. But yeah, let's start going through them. Matt G says, JJ Trilogy looks like Lord of the Rings compared to Discovery / Picard. Yeah, I would
that's
take
not
me
far.
some DJ movies right about now after this,
Absolutely.
although Burnett may disagree. And Rob Altis says, Roddenberry is the only one you can hear scream in space. Yeah, that's
and that's just because his urn is spinning so fast that it's creating sonic sound effects.
And Darth Plato says, Dona nobis pacem, save us from Star Trek Discovery. Probably it should be Dona nobis pacem, because in Latin C was hard C. So yeah, and Mr. Londell's Groovy Movie says, they'll never run out of Burnham is wonderful. Yeah. Now she's Space Jesus, so there's plenty of worship where that came from. And Nate G wonders, can you specify pronouns when you're using universal translators? Doesn't that require both languages to share a feature which is not guaranteed? This is actually an excellent point.
Well, yeah, that even is an issue right here on our own Earth.
Andre, let me ask you something. You're in Norway, right?
Yes.
Is the same talk about using pronouns and personal pronouns, is that the same as it is here in the States?
No, you have some extreme weirdos that want to bring in like a third form, because basically what you have han, which is he, you have hun, which is she, and then some extreme weirdos want to introduce hen, which is then like neither or both, or which is something else, basically.
Well, just fuck their minds and tell them that's a female chick here. So
yeah, I mean, I find it really interesting that the idea that we're going to change language. I mean, what we want to do is we want all people to be accepted for who they are, which I believe in that. I think people should be accepted for who they are, all kinds of people, whether you're whoever you are, whatever you believe, whatever your sexuality is. I am a fan of all kinds of people under the umbrella of one race. We're the human race. There's no other race. We're one race of people. And I'm a huge fan of that. And the faster that we can move out into the stars and meet an alien race and meet them head on and go, we're all from Earth. All of this ridiculous, let's tribalize everybody, which to me is the exact opposite of what we should be doing on this planet. The sooner that ends, the better off we are. And I knew, Europeans have been human beings a lot longer than Americans have. You've got thousands of years on us, and you're more mature than we are. I feel like all Americans are kind of like the 13-year-olds to you Europeans who are like 30.
Well, that's going to depend a bit on European, I tell you what, but yeah. But anyway, no, we do not have that debate anywhere near what you have. Again, you have like some extremists that aren't taken seriously, that are widely disregarded and looked down upon. And here you actually, like even in our academia, you have like forces that actively speak out and say, you know what, we have some downright fascistic tendencies within our own ranks, and we need to strike down at it right now before we become like America, which from our point of view is no longer a democracy because of that.
That's very dismaying to
so
hear.
so we actually regard America increasingly as a fascistic totalitarian police state, and it's not because of the government, but because of like these extreme things that come from academia. And you have our academics warning that we have this thing right here too, and we have to root it out before what we're seeing in America happens here.
Well, there are people that are beginning to fight against it, which I think is good. It's I think the same call it a disease that infects academia infects Star Trek. Modern Star Trek is
it's the same ideology. It's like one ideology, and it's the same thing. And we have it here too, but it has nowhere near the same foothold. And thank God we have voices in our academia that are talking out against it now, before its takeover is complete.
Yeah. Well, also I think there's probably the Europeans are a little bit more live and let live, because you've been human beings. I joke, but you've been human beings thousands of years longer than we have, because America's only 250 years old. We're not comfortable in our own skin. Americans don't like being human beings. We haven't become comfortable with it yet. We're still trying to figure that out. And I think that's problematic. And, people make fun of the fact, or people say that, well, Star Trek was conceived in the 60s, so it's a white man's Camelot John F. Kennedy version of the future. And I'm like, well, that's true, but what they allowed for, which is what the founding fathers in America allowed for, is that they understood that as we grow and evolve, there will be other voices that will refine what we set down here. And what I find strange is that nowadays, especially in America, we want to pillory all of those people that created these things because they weren't perfect back in the time that they lived. And it's like, well, they were trying to do something during the time that they lived that was unique and progressive for that time. The fact that it's not as unique and progressive now doesn't mean what they were doing back then was wrong. They were trailblazing. Right. And now everybody's like, I want the world to be the way I want it to be right this minute, without the idea that it's an evolutionary process. And I feel that the writers of Star Trek now are trying to tell us how we should be today, as opposed to extrapolating about what we might be 1,000 years from now.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just thinking that exact same point. Like you were just saying. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's like, instead of seeing like what we've done, and even the whole JFK kind of America kind of thing, I think they forgot that even though, so what if JFK was a white guy? That doesn't mean that, most of the rest of the world was aspiring to be us for how many years. Right. And that feeds right into Star Trek. Was like, that was the whole point, was that this is what we could be. Yep. If we aspire to be great enough. And
ask
we want
not what you can do for your country, ask what your country can do for you. We do these things and the others not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Indeed. And now, just to address what some are saying in the comments, I'm very aware of this. Like, for instance, Germany, Sweden, parts of the UK, certainly Spain, are already lost causes, because they're exactly the same place where you are. I mean, like Spain, for instance, when I was there this summer, my God, it's fast on becoming just like it was, or even worse than it was during Franco.
Which is too bad, because the Spanish people, Spain is one of my favorite places in the world.
Absolutely.
And it is a place where the people, the life in Barcelona, I can't tell you that one of the places I felt most at home in my life has been in Spain.
And that's my home away from home.
It is. I mean, there is a zest for life. I mean, we are these meat sacks where our intellect is being carried around by these biological machines that can revolt against us at any time. But the Spanish, man, do they know how to live.
But that's taken from them now. And it's really bad because, yeah, as you say, they knew how to live, and very few places have the lockdowns been as severe as there, and maybe for that very reason.
Yeah, because
So,
they
yeah,
all they're
like
very
for
social people.
yeah, like for instance, when I was in the Canary Islands this summer, and I came back to Norway, and I could tear off the mask when I left the airport. It was like waking up from a dream of 1984 and stepping back into reality. So it was, yeah. Of course, now we have masks everywhere here too, but still, like it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, let's not completely
Get too buried in that. But
get into parallel. Let's get back into some super chats because that's where we were. Mr. Wolverine 007 sends for $30. Thank you so much. That greatly contributes to keeping the lights on here. He says, can't stay, but a couple things in regards to STD. In 1,000 years, language hasn't changed, not even minutely. Book can somehow recognize his ship from the ground. Sigh. This writer's room is vastly uneducated.
That kind of bounces off of what we were just saying.
Exactly. And Mills for 14 South African Rand has some sad news in relating to actual writers. Jean Le Carre dies aged 89. So
that's very sad.
Yeah, rest in peace. And Nietzschewicz says for €5, I don't care about diversity in The Expanse. The Expanse is just an amazing story and show. And the T Down Under says for $2 is the Netflix deal the reason this is renewed?
Yes.
Burnett, you have something to say to that? The answer is, of course, yes.
I mean, look, I think that how they have the money to pay for this show. Remember what they're building. They're building on a 54-year-old franchise. So they want to keep this going. It's in their wheelhouse. Their business model. Because remember, nobody really cares what we think. The long-term fans, as far as Hollywood is concerned, we're going to show up. They've got our money. I hate this show and I watch it every week. That's what they have. They've got me. I'm a lifer. I'm a Star Trek lifer. And all of our the fan base, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's Doctor Who, whether it's Star Trek, there's always going to be an audience. And remember, there are people, and I love these people, that are discovering Star Trek for the very first time through Discovery. And I think what's interesting is if they like it, and they can, they've never seen anything else, so they don't have any frame of reference. And so for those people that like Discovery, we can never poo-poo them or say that they don't know what they're talking about because they've never seen any other Star Trek. And the concept of Star Trek, if you buy into it, whether you like Discovery or Picard and that's your first experience, or Star Trek 09 or whatever, we should welcome these people and say, hey, I love the fact that you love Star Trek. I've loved it my whole life. Hopefully you'll delve into the older shows. They speak for themselves. I don't need to evangelize for the original series. It doesn't need me to. It has 54 years of pop culture history to prove that it's successful. And I find it interesting that modern Trek fans are always coming after me going, the original series is this or that, or it's blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, it was made 54 years ago. Like the fact that you're still talking about Star Trek is because of the original series. Whether you like it or not, you have to appreciate that. So
yeah, absolutely. And it's like I get sick and tired of sticking up for the first 2 seasons of TNG as well. It's like great example. We just brought up an episode earlier that is from the second season. What episode have they used a lot of basically the basis for Picard? Measure of a Man, which is in what season?
Season 2.
Exactly.
And you know what? You go back season 1, The Big Goodbye won a Peabody Award. Heart of Glory is a great Klingon episode. Look, was the first 2 seasons of Next Generation difficult to watch? Hard to get through? Yes. It felt like it was more dated than the original series. However, you don't write off a whole season. You have to look at 26 episodes and 22 in the second season and go, Well, are there bright shining moments here? Yeah, there are. Even a Wesley Crusher episode, Coming of Age, from the first season is great. An episode I love, 11001001 with the Binars,
Yep.
is actually a really good Star Trek episode with Minuet and the holodeck and the Binars at the end of the day. There's a great lesson to be learned from that episode, even though it's pretty simplistic. You're not expecting it. And when you get it at the end of that episode, you're like, huh, they're right. I get it.
There's a lot of that in the first 2 seasons.
There is indeed. And again, I demand more intellectual rigor from all of us, every one of us. What you love, think about it more. Demand excellence. Why not? You're paying for it. Make it. If you're paying to watch Star Trek, which we are now, why shouldn't it be good?
Yeah. On that note, I just want to say one thing. You say that, they have our money and our custom. I will add one thing to that. Yeah, they have yours and they have ours. And because they have that, we right now have 1,167 people watching. And I assure you that 1,000 of them haven't watched this. They just come to see us talk about it. We watch it so they don't have to quote a once great YouTuber.
Exactly.
So there is a point to be made right there. Anyway, yeah, we have some more super chats. That's where we were. Shogun Orta says for $5, why does it feel like the show isn't talking about what it should be? The 32nd century. And Necrotic says, worst part of the Booker story. Do you feel it expands on the story, universe, or even that character? I don't see how. Did we learn anything about Booker in the last episode?
Nope. That's a really good point. I mean, again, you know what? What's funny is classical storytelling has been with us for centuries. It was defined all the way back to like ancient Greece. And what I find interesting is that the people that are writing Star Trek now are trying to write episodic television that's generic. Star Trek should be special. The people that write Star Trek should be people that understand we're not writing your ordinary television show. And what we're getting now is the most generic, simplistic, intellectually challenged writing that we get from any network show. And I'm very disappointed by the lack of ambition in something like Star Trek Discovery from an intellectual standpoint. Where's the intellectual rigor that science fiction demands? Certainly not on this show.
No, because I think they're seeing it as more of the name brand. It's like, oh, I get to work on Star Trek, not because I like it, but because I get to put that on my resume.
Yep.
Yeah. Indeed. And moving on, Nightwish fan 1991 says for $20 to keep the lights on, so thank you so much. Side tangent, R&B reminded me about how Kurtzman thinks he is apparently a genius for writing about AI gaining sentience when that story has been done to death in sci-fi for over 70 years.
I was
It's
going to
basic
say,
at this point.
Fritz Lang did it really well in Metropolis in 1927.
100 years ago, yeah.
You know, I mean, that's what's frustrating. You want to see a great movie about AI? Watch Spike Jonze's Her with Joaquin Phoenix and ScarJo. There's a great movie about artificial intelligence.
Or 2001.
There you go. That too. Again,
made in 1960. What? 7, 8, 9?
Came out
68. Yeah, same year as the book. Although there's exactly. Yeah. No, there's no shortage of great examples there. So that Alex Kurtzman,
even,
exactly right. But he thinks
even 1970s Colossus, the Forbin Project.
Yeah.
Watch that movie.
Or even Terminator, for fuck's sake. I mean, for modern, even semi-modern, I guess you could say, because that's even 40 years old.
Demon Seed.
Oh, I love I live. I love Demon Seed.
Yeah. So you see, there's
based
no
on a
shortage.
Dean Koontz novel.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I mean, Twilight Zone. I mean, there's so many things, and like this asshat thinks that he's a genius for coming up with something that people have come up for a century before him. Yeah, good going. Anyway, Aaron Telford says for £5 I agree. STD isn't good Star Trek, but I challenge everyone to say at least one good thing in defense of the show. Okay, let's take on that challenge. I'll say one good thing about the show. Someone wants to take this on while
Okay,
I think?
I'll say one good thing.
Yeah.
I love the fact that they're presenting the show in 2:3:9:1. I love the fact that they've moved to a widescreen cinematic aspect ratio. I think that was forward thinking and very cool. So I like them for doing that. I just wish the show was not so unpleasant to look at. The color, the palette. Star Trek was always even like Next Generation, even when they went a little darker with Deep Space Nine, Star Trek was always very colorful. You know, you had a wash of colors, the uniforms, the actual gels on the lights in the original series, because they wanted to sell color TVs back when Star Trek first started. Color was a part of Star Trek. The palette of modern Star Trek is very much drab. It's very dark blues and grays and silvers, and it's very one note, kind of the way the writing is. And everything about Star Trek is in a way, it's like the series is intellectually not. I find the look of the show to be very visually oppressive. It's impressive, but also oppressive. And color is the vibrancy of it is also optimistic. This show, the world is dour. It's sad. It's slate gray and silvers and crying, and it's always raining, according to their color palette. And I hate that. But I do love the fact that it's in widescreen.
Yeah.
I compare the new Starfleet uniforms to the neutral planet in Futurama.
Yeah, it's a wider angle so you can see how large of a turd it is. Now, I will say something good about it and not say anything bad about it in the process or add a but. Mine is going to be, I like Saru. He feels like a very Star Trek character.
Yep. And yet he completely is undermined in every episode.
I'm trying not to add anything but.
No, I agree with you. I think Doug Jones is great. Even in the last couple episodes, if you watch how he walks, the way he swings his arms, alien-esque, he's fucking great. He is really, really great. But talk about a character, of all of the characters in Star Trek, the aliens are supposed to stand in for us. If you want to tell us a message, it should be the alien characters that we hear it through, because that's the whole point. They're the proxy for all the problems in the world are exemplified by the aliens. And Saru is such a great character, and Doug Jones is great. I like the makeup. I like all of it. And yet he is constantly undermined. And indeed, his authority, how Michael Burnham treats him, is just unconscionable. I mean, that show, if anything, Star Trek is racist against Kelpians, because
they eat them.
They eat them, or human beings are better than they are. You know what? I'd like to watch Saru throw her in the brig. You are an insubordinate. I've watched you. Because of you, my original captain died. And I'm still 1,000 years in the future. Get out of my sight. Go to the brig. I hate you.
Yeah, that's and just you, and in the mirrored universe, you can bet that Michael Burnham, she was chomping down on Kelpians. She ate them like there was no tomorrow. So that's okay. So to summarize so far, then, the good things about Star Trek Discovery is: 1, it airs in proper widescreen. 2, it has Saru, but with a major but at the end there. And I would also like to add. I think I have two things to add. One is that they spent some money on the show. I'm sure loads of it went into various administrative expenses.
Excuse me for just a moment. Sorry.
Yeah, certainly. So yeah, they spent some money on it. And beyond that, I believe I speak for every single one of us here at Midnight's Edge, because we have one more good thing to say about the show. And there are actually two other people that can say it for us.
Just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens.
What?
It ends.
Yeah, that's all we have to say about that.
Pretty much.
We're gonna move on to the next super chat now that we've said everything good there is possibly to say about this show. Stubble McShave sends for 50 Swedish krona. Tackar så mycket. When Deep Space Nine was created, Ira made the writers read Asimov's Foundation books and some other sci-fi classics to get the right sense for a believable sci-fi world. Yeah, you see, that's how you do it. That's also what great directors do. That before a production of a new movie begins, they will typically have a screening of another movie to that kind of like show that this is kind of like what we're going for. Like, for instance, prior to Dread or filming that, they had a screening of Dirty Harry because that was kind of what they were going for. And on Deep Space Nine, yeah, read Asimov. That's great. That's exactly how to do it. And that, of course, is completely missing in these people. And Michael Medina MX Productions says, I am still waiting for the day Robert Meyer Burnett will reveal himself as Doomcock while screaming to Disney and CBS, "It was me! It was me!" By the way, I love you guys. So yeah, that was fun.
Too bad he isn't here to hear that, but no, I think he had another opportunity to prove that is not true.
Oh no, I heard it.
Okay, yeah, he joined us.
I just had to do some work. I had to do a bit of work. No, I heard that, but you know what? That takes away from the greatness of Doomcock. And I only wish I had a lair in the center of the world. Right. I only wish I had a Cthulhu-like wingman who helped me rule the world. But no.
I have to share this little story from the audience. The first time that we spoke, Robert, the very first thing that you said to me wasn't hi, wasn't greetings, how's it going? No, the first thing you said was a question. Care to repeat it?
You'll have to say it.
You asked him if he was Doomcock.
Yeah, that was the first thing you said. Are you Doomcock?
Well, you know, it's funny because one of the things that I've had to deal with is people are like, "Are you part of the fandom menace and all this?" And I'm like, no, I didn't know it was like, can you get a membership card? Like, is it the AARP? Whatever. And like, as you know, when I first started watching you guys, or we started interacting, I was already a fan. Like, I loved hearing Rob's voice on documentaries. I watched every Midnight's Edge video. And, you know, some things working in the industry, I would know are pretty spot on. Some things are a little off. But the fact that you guys were trying to do this and you had I thought, a pretty great take on what was going on. But I also appreciated the time you put into making your videos, the editorial, the fact that you got pictures and images. None of that, all of that takes time. And none of that I took for granted. And I liked Midnight's Edge videos before I knew you people. And I watched Doomcock as well.
People? No, I'm just kidding.
I know, you people. I watch these videos because at the end of the day, you're all fans. You know, you're what binds us together is all we want is great stuff. And we're here with our dollars. Like, we want you to make good. We don't want to dislike Star Trek or dislike Star Wars or dislike Doctor Who. We're the people that are already invested. And when you lose us, that's a problem. Like, how do you lose people that made the very franchises you have that find so lucrative? When you lose them, you have to ask yourself, why is this happening? How has this happened? And all we're doing is asking, why can't you make great stuff?
Yeah.
Other people are. Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. How about a sequel to Breaking Bad? You can't do that. Oh, yes, we can. Better Call Saul. I mean, there is amazing entertainment being made. The Expanse is based on a series of books, so they have the novels. But we all want, I just want to love Star Trek. That's all I want. You have more money to make Star Trek than anybody ever has. And where you're falling down, you've got the production value, even though it's not canonical, whatever. Your visual effects, I can't stand anything about the design elements of modern Star Trek. But they're doing their own thing, which I respect. It's fine. It looks great. All I want is a great story. The one place that a budget can't help you is the story, is the writing. And that's where it's falling down. And that's all we want. And by the way, all of these things, Star Wars, Doctor Who, Star Trek, whatever, it's the writing. The writing. And the people that are writing these shows are not up to the task. And I'm like, how is it that your design team is delivering what you want, but the writers, do they not know? I mean, television writers are the most cantankerous, critical people I know. And the fact that they continually write a show that is criticized by so many people, I don't understand. And all we're here to do is say, look, we want to love your show, man. I want to love Star Trek Discovery. Don't we all?
Yeah, of course. We all want.
So why is it so fucking bad? Make it better. Right.
Do better.
Better. That's all we want.
As Gillette says, do better.
That's it.
That's all there's to it. So yeah, and moving on.
They had that opportunity. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to say they had that opportunity with this season. They did. This was a blank slate almost, basically.
What a failure of imagination season 3 of Discovery has been. All they have done is looked at other things. And whether it's dystopian sci-fi, they have taken the exact opposite easy route. What a disappointment of imagination this is.
Well, it does have some fans, because my countryman Tebios to Buck for 20 Norwegian kroner says, I actually enjoy STD. Well, there's no accounting for taste, dear countryman. So, yeah.
Well, wait.
Let's be fair, though. In reality, though, no, you're entitled to like it. It's not.
That's why I think we have to make sure that the people that like it, they're not wrong, and I think it's important to say that because, you can't tell somebody who likes something that they're wrong because they're not. Because they like it. They know they like it. They like it. And I would hope that perhaps if you like Star Trek Discovery, it'll make you look back into the 54-year history of the franchise. And I think that's where a lot of people get the fandom menace wrong, is they feel that by anyone saying they don't like something is a criticism of people that say that they do.
And they couldn't be more wrong.
Right.
Yeah, as believe it or not, like Jeremy pointed out the other night on Friday Night Tights, there's even members of the Phantom Menace who like The Last Jedi, and we don't chase them out of the Phantom Menace. It's not like we're some sect group. I mean, I was joking earlier when I said to Robert, no, there's no like card you get. You don't just, there's no meetings. There's no leader of the Phantom Menace.
I thought that was Ethan Van Sciver.
Well, it was at one point, but then it was Jeremy, and then I argued that Cecil actually won the popular vote, so we had a problem there. And
drinking beer. Sorry,
no. It was, the whole point was like, no, it's a fucking hashtag. It's an ideal, and the whole ideal is built on we should be able to love or hate anything we want and be able to criticize anything we want without being called an istophobe, if that's obviously not the case, because our criticisms are being ignored or taken out of context, and they're basically using that as an excuse for their piss poor product. I mean, and if they want to keep calling us consumers and treating us like consumers more than customers, then I'll treat them like a product more and more so.
Well, Star Trek exists because of in strip syndication. Everyone saw it and it developed. By the way, Star Trek has always been a niche thing.
Yeah.
It's not a mainstream thing. It never was.
Well, and I think Emma Watts knows that.
Yeah, I think she's a very smart cookie. And I think one of her frustrations is, you know what, the Star Wars announcement over at Disney, look at how many different kinds of creators. Like I love Russian Doll. I thought Russian Doll was a great show. The woman who created that show is going to do Acolyte. That's pretty crazy. There's a whole pantheon, like watching Patty Jenkins saying, look, my father was a fighter pilot. And I've looked my whole life to find something I could do to honor him. He died in the service of his country. I'm like, wow. So now we have a director who has a connection to a project that I think I'm interested because of authorship. I mean, Patty Jenkins she has a personal connection to the idea of fighter pilots, which is where the idea of X-Wings come from anyway. The fact that you could say, oh, she's a woman director. Look, man, she was out in the wilderness for 10 years. She made Monster, Academy Award-winning performance from Charlize Theron. She couldn't get hired. No one hired her for 10 years. I love Patty Jenkins. God love the fact that she comes back and does Wonder Woman and has to fight the studio and says, you know what? Screw you. I'm making the movie I want to make. And she makes $800 million. When the studio are like, you shouldn't do it this way. I mean, she's stuck to her guns, man. I love her. And the fact that she's going to come back and do this, I think is great. And that's what we want. We want people that are passionate. Favreau and Filoni are passionate. Whether you appreciate what they're doing, thank God there's somebody who really cares. And by the way, I'm a Kathleen Kennedy supporter. What I would love to see is open up Star Trek. Open it up to creators. All kinds of creators, and get some competition in there. Emma Watts, hire somebody that has nothing to do with J.J. Abrams, nothing to do with Bad Robot, nothing to do with Secret Hideout. Have a new creator come in and let them make Star Trek. Their Star Trek. I don't care who it is. Noah Hawley, dissed. Tarantino, dissed. Find someone else.
They're gone.
I don't care. You get a new creative team in there, put in some competition. But hopefully that creative team will smoke the people that have controlled Star Trek for 11 years because they are driving it into the ground. They are destroying a franchise that represented progressivism, true progressivism, and intellectual rigor. And that's not what we're getting.
I think you're bringing up a great point. And I know we need to get back to these super chats, Andre, but
sorry.
No. I think you bring up a great point though, Robert, about how much talent they've allowed to just walk the fuck out the door for their hubris, their fucking hubris. We have had Robert Meyer Burnett or Nicholas Myers, not Robert Meyer Burnett, who I'm talking to.
Oh, I can only wish.
Yeah, Nicholas Myers. We've had, the whole thing with Walter Mosley. Then we've had Noah Hawley now. We've also had now the Tarantino bit. And Tarantino wanted to make one of these movies. I mean, what are the odds that somebody like that who's going to kind of even come close to this? And why didn't they even just go with that? Why didn't they just say, fuck all this other business? I mean, and they even had it in their Paramount side of things because Tarantino wanted to use Chris Pine. If there was any way you were going to get Chris Pine back into the fold of this, don't you think it would be Tarantino giving him a phone call being like, hey, Chris, it's Quentin Tarantino. You want to play Kirk again?
The problem was, though, they didn't get the money to do it from anyone.
No, I know.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, that's what killed it.
Paramount doesn't have the cash. You know what they need to do?
Yeah.
They need to do. People have asked me, what would you do if you ran Star Trek? I look to Jason Blum and Blumhouse. Oh, yes. Jason Blum has a model where it's like, okay, M. Night Shyamalan came back. He was out in the wilderness because of Lady in the Water and half the other things he made. He comes back and Blumhouse is like, you know what? Make a movie for $5 million. And if it's good, we'll release it. I've got Universal. We'll put it out. He makes The Visit, comes back roaring. Then he makes Split. Then he makes The Unbreakable, the third Unbreakable movie. And he's back in the game. but he had to earn his way back, and why not make Star Trek go, you know what? Paramount wants to make a Star Trek film, $50 million. It's capped at $50 million. If you can make a Star Trek movie for that, we open it up to all of Hollywood. Come work on our franchise, please.
Well, it used to be that way under Berman.
I know. And 50, and by the way, that's what I would do. I would either do a Deep Space Nine movie, or I would do Eric Jedrinson's Star Trek: The Beginning script. $50 million, because if you can't make a great Star Trek movie for $50 million, you're a bad filmmaker. And I would say that.
No, I agree, because we've seen fan films that people I constantly get, or we get constantly recommended, certain Star Trek fan films and shows and things all the time. And I don't know anything about that. Yeah, of course not. But my point is exactly that. If the love is there, it can be done right. And you're right. Star Trek is not a franchise that needs to appeal to this mass,
It never will.
And I think that's one of the reasons why Tarantino loves it. Besides, his reasoning is just because he loves Shatner. But no, I think that's part of it, is because it's not Star Wars. It's not the thing that everybody loves. He's seen it as his own little geeky thing, like we did, and that's where we're having this. I'm not even going to bring up the comic, but I have the little comic strip, where it basically says this whole thing in a nutshell. It's like, we're being seen as being exclusive, but then as soon as we include everyone, because we don't have a problem with it, then we're the ones who are seen as the problem, and that's what sucks. It's like, it's that whole like, oh, it's you have this cool little Star Trek thing. Well, it'd be a shame if somebody come over and ruined it for you, like us, kind of thing. And that's exactly what it is. It's by people who don't care, don't understand. It's for the almighty dollar, for the CBS All Access, for the Kurtzman to have his prestige and have his big contract and do his fucking thing. And that's the funny thing is, we bitch about Kurtzman, but do we not realize that how they look at him over there? Like, they look at him probably like he's doing them a favor. I mean, that's what I got to keep reminding Doomcock is like, because it's like, you don't understand. Kurtzman does all these other shows and he's got all these other connections and he's got people who kiss his ass because he knows whose ass to kiss. And because of these things, the way they see it, he's slumming it and doing them a favor by doing this Star Trek thing.
Yes, that you're exactly right about that. Not only that, this season of Star Trek Discovery is a supervising producer is John Ottman. Now, I know John. I've known him for 20 years, longer even. John Ottman, for people who don't know, is an editor/composer. He worked with Bryan Singer on all of Bryan's movies except X-Men 1. He won the Academy Award last year for editing Bohemian Rhapsody. He's a supervising producer of Star Trek Discovery. Isn't that interesting? No one brings this up. He's in the opening credits. Why? By the way, John Ottman is the biggest classic Star Trek fan there is. He and I would go back and forth. He also composed the scores for like Shane Black's movie Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Very talented. He's the supervising producer of Star Trek Discovery. No one I have seen it's not covered anywhere. Why do you think he got the job working on that show? What do you think he had to offer as a Academy Award-winning film editor who won the Academy Award? I
never even noticed his name was on there. I know who he is, though.
Oh, yes. Season 3. They had to bring in an Academy Award-winning editor and give him a supervising producer credit in the opening credits. How much must that have cost them? A lot, I'm sure.
Well, and that's what they did to Nicholas Meyer. They basically gave him the shaft, used his name.
Well, they didn't give John Ottman the shaft.
No, I know, but like that's the thing is like it's. Anyway, go ahead.
No, Nicholas Meyer was Brian Fuller was dispensed with, and everyone he brought in. The point that I was going to make is that they needed to bring someone like John Ottman in because the show is not well produced. And they needed someone to come in and fix it to make sure it was out there.
It's not working.
And, well, I mean, how many showrunners have they lost? Like you said, Tom, you said exactly right. The people that are making the show, it's a cash cow, and you got the credits and you got the contracts, and the people that work on it, look, everybody that works on a TV show or a movie tries to make it good. But you know what? There are people, Star Trek, everyone who works on Star Trek now, it's all slumming. They don't see it as prestigious as, say, working on whatever other show they'd rather be on. Star Trek is a show people go to and they think, oh, here's a paycheck. I'll get the money. I'll get the I know I'm going to get syndication money or whatever. It's one of the most lucrative things to write for as far as TV is concerned. And yet, wouldn't it be great to have the same people that cared? Naren Shankar, look where they're at. Ron Moore, Naren Shankar, Brandon Braga, Renee Echevarria. Where are they? They're all creating some of the great fantasy science fiction shows, whether it's Outlander or whether it's The Expanse. The Star Trek Alumni Association is fucking incredible. Why don't they bring them back? I don't know. Who knows?
Oh, that's a great point. No, and Kurt, like I said, yeah, I know. I try to tell everybody about Kurtzman and get them to understand, but it's the same thing with JJ. You know, it's the exact same thing with JJ. He's always knows how to have a perfect scapegoat to make any excuse, and you don't have to. He doesn't even have to make the excuse. It's self-made. You know what I mean? Like, look at Rise of Skywalker. You can't blame that on him.
Well, I mean,
you could if you really want to get a convoluted mess into it. Like, yeah, he could have done the whole trilogy, all that business. But really, he came in to clean up the mess that Rian Johnson made. And because they lost Trevorrow. Like, that's just kind of the same thing with Ron Howard on Solo. I don't blame him for Solo. I blame Kathleen Kennedy for allowing the shenanigans to go on for 88 days of shooting before somebody stepped in and said either we need to do something about it. No, he just came in and reshot an entire movie as the script said, and they needed to fit into these special effects.
By the way, though, if I might, again, people forget Kathleen Kennedy made a lot of really interesting hires initially that didn't work out. You know, they didn't pan out. They didn't work underneath the corporate structure of first Disney, then Lucasfilm, and then Kathleen Kennedy. She did try. You know, hiring Lord and Miller in the first place was a kind of a baller move, and that they didn't work out. And yes, because Kathleen Kennedy allows her creatives to do what they do. There's a reason why they were hired. And when it finally becomes untenable, this is not something anybody wants to deal with, but she did hire them initially. And I do think that that's something to consider. And what I find interesting, isn't it interesting? They're going to make a Lando Calrissian series, which is essentially a sequel to Solo.
Well, it's that movie.
They're not making a sequel to the sequel trilogy.
I know why this is, though, because all the stuff that's announced right now was stuff that they already had on the table. And that was what we were told by Script Doctor. Was he said that he heard they were not taking any new pitches at Disney. They are just working with what they had. And that's why 90% of the stuff we saw is either a spinoff or something we already knew about.
Right.
Yeah. So that's part of that problem. But again, my whole point was getting back to JJ, though, was everything he's done has made money for the most part. Even when you look at things like Insurrection, or not Insurrection, Into Darkness, which didn't do like as well stateside, it still did better overseas, so it still made money. Like even
did it though?
It probably cost a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about how much
they want to make more than the first film, is my point.
Right. But they look, the magic number for franchises these days is $1 billion, and Star Trek is not that. And the problem, I think the problem with the Star Trek franchise is they've tried to turn it into, because the idea of a franchise is this overarching idea that, a franchise should make $1 billion. Star Trek has never been that franchise.
But yeah,
Star Trek is a franchise that should be made for a price, meaning it should be made for not all the money in the world. There's no reason that J.J. Abrams, he even said that why are these movies so expensive to make? They shouldn't be. Your approach made them so expensive. Even when you're going out, like I would wonder, like they went on location and shot in a brewery. Why not just build the set? Why not just build the set on the
Well, this
soundstage?
is the same guy that took a green screen out to the desert. But
Right.
my point was that Star Trek took a nosedive when he wasn't there no more.
Man, I love that.
So
that never occurred to me.
So he could use that as an excuse. That's my point. Is he's always in a position where everything that goes wrong with something can be blamed on somebody else, even though we as nerds know that the reason Star Trek Beyond tanked was because Into Darkness sucks so bad. The industry still sees it as that's the one that tanked and JJ wasn't involved, or at least not on the level he was before. And that's my point, is these guys know where to be at the right times. And Kurtzman, even though he's been involved with more stinkers and things that have failed, he's kissed the right asses, and he's done all the yes sirs and yes ma'ams that he's had to do, and everything that has failed. Look at The Mummy, great example. Everything can be turned around and blamed on Tom Cruise, not him.
Well, which is ridiculous considering Tom Cruise's career. I mean, I became a Tom Cruise fan in 1983 when I saw Risky Business. There isn't, and I've met him, I've actually spoken to him at length. There isn't a better person who's navigated this business and understands what they have to do more than Tom Cruise. And the fact that what Tom Cruise wants more than anything, he wants somebody who's smart and knows their business, because he does. That's why he works with Chris McQuarrie. I can tell you this: Chris McQuarrie is one of the smartest people There are a couple of people in Hollywood that I've met that I've talked to that really impressed me. Gail Ann Hurd was one of them. I interviewed her at USC for the Academy.
Female that everybody forgets that existed for the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah. One of the savviest, most intelligent people I've ever spoken to. Lisa Henson, who I met when I worked at Warner Brothers 30 years ago, Jim Henson's daughter, who I think she graduated from Yale with like a comparative mythology degree or something. Amazing woman. And Chris McQuarrie, one of the smartest people. He won an Academy Award for writing The Usual Suspects script, but he is one smart MF. He really is. And there's a reason why he formed an alliance with Tom Cruise and they keep working together. And McQuarrie does a rewrite on Top Gun. He's that smart. Tom Cruise is a person that loves to work with really great and talented people. If you look at the directors, when I met him, I met him and we were in an interesting situation where it was me, my girlfriend at the time, my best friend, Tom Cruise, Katie Holmes, and Suri. There was 6 of us in a room for like an hour. And it was kind of weird, but I figured I'm going to talk to Tom Cruise. I said, hey, man, we were all there for the same reason. And I said to him, I go, hey, can I ask you a question? And he was, trepidatious, I'm sure, at first. He said, well, what? I said, I got to ask you. Your career has been very impressive. And I want to know, do you choose the project first, or do you choose the people that are working on it first? And he lit up. And he was like, no one's ever asked me that before, in his Tom Cruise way. And we talked for an hour, and just about his career. And he impressed me. I mean, for all of whatever you think about him as a human being, that guy knows his shit. He is on it, and he knows about who he wants to work with, why he wants to work with them. He is one of the most impressive people. And look, I've interviewed a lot of people in my capacity as a documentarian in Hollywood, but this was just an off-the-cuff conversation. He was not being paid to be there. We were waiting to see a screening of, I'll tell you, Valkyrie, and he wanted to see it. And we were there, and this iteration of it. And he didn't have to talk to me. I feel that I got Tom Cruise uncut, and that guy was one of the most impressive people I've ever met in Hollywood. And for Alex Kurtzman to say disparaging things, I read an article or something that said Kurt Russell was defending Tom Cruise when Alex Kurtzman was dissing him. I'm like, I have not one bad thing to say about Tom Cruise. That guy knows what's up, and his career bears it out. And
that's my point, though. He can blame it on somebody else, though. Even though it may not be, even though you could probably argue that the point should have been that Kurtzman should have known when to say no to Tom and control the situation better.
Oh,
he can still lay the blame on Tom. That's the thing.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you something. I think Tom Cruise expects you to know your shit. And look at the people he's worked with. And I think Alex Kurtzman didn't. And any problems that existed is because Alex Kurtzman was out of his depth. Who was he to direct a $150 million franchise film? What did he direct before? But he got that job.
He wanted to be Favreau. He wanted to be the next Favreau is what he wanted.
Yeah, but Favreau, started making swingers.
I know.
You know?
And I made this argument the other night about the whole Mandalorian thing. It's like, you can blame Filoni and all the other people for certain things you don't like, but there's one thing I do know about Favreau is motherfucker knows how to write.
Yeah, and you know what's funny?
So
I think that they're making a show. They're making a show that's you can step into almost any episode. It's not, we're so used to these serialized epic stories that we forget where television used to be, which was even the original Star Trek, an original story. Every episode was like a new thing. And while The Mandalorian has retread a lot of ground that we've seen before, each episode, especially the latter half of the second season, as far as a half an hour of TV goes, we're getting a lot of shit. I thought this last episode, we learned more about the Empire. We met that crazy Imperial officer. He was great. And that character told us more about the Empire, the Galactic Empire, than we'd learned in 9 movies. And even Bill Burr, who everybody hated last season, when we find out where he came from and that he was an Imperial officer, their back and forth, that was great shit. And you know what? 2 dudes sitting at a table. We don't need TIE fighters or special effects. One guy in an Imperial officer's outfit and one guy in a stormtrooper outfit that smells, apparently. 2 guys at a table gave us some great Star Wars. Do you need money to do that?
Even though the scene was ripped off from Django Unchained, but yeah.
No, it was. And look, the show is very much, it's designed, I think, to be familiar.
I know, but what is it? I think they really want, it's going back to Tarantino, and then we got to get back to Super Chat. Sorry, Andre. But no, I think they really want Tarantino to direct one of these episodes or something in Star Wars, because my original review, and this was before I was even part of Midnight's Edge, I believe, if I remember right. Because Rogue One came out before I was. I started off my original review of Rogue One for my old channel is my review for Inglourious Basterds, a Star Wars story. Rogue One, a Star Wars story, because that opening scene of Rogue One is a direct ripoff of Inglourious Basterds, like to a T almost. And I'm like, and after seeing this last episode, I'm like, they must really want him to direct something in here or something, because this scene feels just like the end of Django Unchained. I'm like, wait a minute here. That was totally out of that. Like, what the hell?
But also Tarantino is dealing with classic cinema tropes.
Yeah.
So even the stuff he's doing is he's going back, and I don't mind, like, Star Wars, the original Star Wars, not A New Hope. It's called Star Wars. I know now.
I know.
But you go back in there and you look at like, so much of that was influenced by Kurosawa. The wipes right out of the Hidden Fortress. R2 and 3PO are right out of that, and I think that's okay. When you're transmuting the samurai genre into science fiction, I don't have a problem with that if it's done well.
Oh no, it had its moments. I didn't hate this last episode, and I know we're going to talk about Mandalorian on our review there, but back to the Super Chats, Andre. Sorry to go on that tangent. That was mostly my fault.
I feel I should go away. I've hijacked this show.
No. It's great stuff, though, because
I'm sorry.
Kurtzman is a part of Star Trek. He's let's face it, he is the core problem. And again, I think that we hit a nail on the head there with the whole reason the show isn't that great is because these people see it as a stepping stone. They see it as slumming. They see it as, something that is just another,
you are so right about that.
Button on their lapel, or however you want to put it, or a credit on their IMDb, basically.
Yeah, that's so true. It hurts, but yeah. Moving on with the super chats. Aaron Telford says, because in Discovery the planet Vulcan still exists, even if renamed, Discovery has to be Prime Timeline. Well, it is Prime Timeline, but remember, Prime Timeline isn't quite what we have been led to believe.
Right.
And Stephen Otten says, science fiction for people who don't like science fiction. Wake me when Dune comes on. And Allavrian Imakara says, that's not the Guardian, it's his feckless cousin.
I love you.
Scott Purdy says, GOF is, I don't know who exactly GOF is, but GOF is a pre-Hartnell doctor. Oh yeah, Guardian of Forever.
Yeah.
Guardian of Forever is a pre-Hartnell doctor setting up a crossover. Yeah, wouldn't that be something?
Well, it's funny. I mean, that's kind of exactly what it is. They've gone back to the Harlan Ellison original script of City on the Edge of Forever. But the problem with that is when they introduce that character, you're like, what? Like, think about it. If you're watching Discovery, right, and you're following the science fiction show, in this episode, the Discovery by their God computer, the Discovery has become the Deus Ex Machina, the ultimate Deus Ex Machina, because it's literally incorporated in the show. They go to this planet and they beam down to these coordinates, and there's a dude there, and we're just supposed to watch this and go, oh, of course, this is exactly what happens on our science fiction television show. Some guy dressed in 19th or 20th century garb reading a newspaper. And we're just supposed to accept this? They never gave us an explanation. You should go through this door, this weird, surreal door from like the Large Door, the movie look up Large Door. It's like from the 20s.
You're ripping off The Matrix.
Well, yeah, you're looking at this and you're like, who is this person? Like, nobody stops. Like, no one goes, are you a human being? What are you? Why are you here? How did you know we were coming? Why do you have Georgiou's future in your hand? I mean, we're just supposed to buy into it because, oh, okay, this is the very worst kind of storytelling. Think about it. When you meet the Guardian of Forever and City on the Edge of Forever, they're standing in front of this. By the way, how much more satisfying would it have been to see the Guardian of Forever? But anyway, so you have to ask the question, and the Guardian explains to you in exposition, but interestingly so, we understand how it works, how time travel works, what's going to happen, where the story might go. We as a viewer understands that. But when you meet Captain Brass from CSI on this weird planet, who is he? Why is he dressed this way? Why does he have a newspaper? We don't know. And then our character's like, yep. George Al's like, I know what I have to do. I'm going to walk through this door. Really? You do know what you have to do? How do you know that? Because some dude from the 20th century that you've never met before, presumably, you're not like dubious going, bruh, if you want me to walk through that door, you got to give me a little bit more information. But no, the way this show is written, it's like, hey, some guy with a door and a frame on a planet that I had to walk to. I couldn't just beam down to the coordinates. I had to walk through the snow, and I'm going to walk through your door just because? I mean, our characters are suddenly like, wow, a dude on a planet dressed in 20th century garb, we're just going to do what he tells us to do. Because reasons. Really?
Script calls for it. So, yeah. Not saying that's a good thing, but that's evidently the best they got.
I love the fact that you give me this time. I feel like I'm in therapy with all of you. You let me talk, and I feel better about myself because
we're all in therapy here. Like, we all need to hear what you have to say here. Like,
No, right?
For all of us.
Please just make it good. Please. Why isn't it good? Just you have hundreds of millions of dollars.
You know what I'm thinking instead? I'm like thinking, please make it stop. I'll settle for that at this point.
Like in The Exorcist, Mommy, make it stop. Make it stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh shit.
Exactly. Yeah. Speaking of making it stop, we have quite a few more super chats to go through. Here's the one you're gonna like,
I
Mr.
love
Burnett. Darth Plato says Mirror Saru should respond by killing the Emperor.
That would be the greatest thing ever.
But no, indeed, he's just another subservient slave and happy to not be dinner today, which is a great thing. So
Well,
yeah.
What I find interesting about it is that is they've taken the wrong lessons from Mirror Mirror, in that they think that everybody has the counterparts of people are diametrically opposed to who they are in our universe, and they're not. The funny thing about it is it's not the people that are different, it's the universe that's different. So if you grow up in a universe that is look, all universes are they don't care what you think, but the way people grew up, the universe is diametrically opposed. So Saru is not his alternate counterpart in the mirror universe. He's still a Kelpian. Just because you recognize him does not mean he's the guy from your universe. He is not. And I find the same is true of like the idea of a clone, which we saw in Nemesis. A clone of someone, unless they're brought up in the exact same way, they're never going to be exactly the same. So Tom Hardy's clone of Picard, I feel what you feel. No, you don't. Aside from our DNA, you know nothing about me. We have no connection. There's nothing at all about us that is together. And yet writers seem to want to make clones or alternate universe counterparts exactly the same, or mirrors of these characters, and they're not. And that's what I find very frustrating. The idea that they're mirrors is a very Saturday morning cartoon way of writing.
Yeah, indeed.
No, I agree. Yeah, that's what we were saying earlier too.
Tom,
Just look
remember
at real life clones, and you have that in cattle and animals and stuff. They look nothing like each other, even though they're supposed to be exactly the same thing.
Tom, remember that first episode when they hinted at the mirror universe? It was the Stamets was looking in it, literally into a mirror.
Well, yeah, it was not
And
just that. It was like almost every episode leading up to that mirror universe episode, they had either at the end or some point in some dramatic scene a long pause of somebody looking into a mirror version of, like, looking into a mirror reflection. It was always like generally at the end of the episode, I believe.
Yeah. They took the name Mirror Universe and the meaning too literally.
Exactly. You are so right. Rob, you're so right.
Say it again. I don't hear it very often.
Rob, you are so incredibly correct in your assessment of them. Yes, sir. I concur.
That
Thank
was
you.
better than porn for him, I bet.
Well, I don't know. I've always thought, I mean, I hear Rob's dulcet tones and I believe everything he says. Come on, man. I've watched your videos for years.
Well, I don't even believe everything I say.
We'll say we don't realize that in.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Well, he did.
Like-
He does claim he invented the question mark, so I don't know about that.
Well, I invented the question mark. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. He made bold claims like he invented the question mark.
But I, if you told me that, I would believe you.
I was the one who pioneered the question mark.
But who did invent the question mark? You know, they did a really good job.
I saw the exclamation point, and I'm thinking, if I twist it here, and
I mean, the question mark's like the perfect visual onomatopoeia. It looks just what it is. Like when you see a question mark, you know exactly what it means, even down to the core of your being.
exactly.
And I feel that great art or great storytelling does the same thing. We don't have to debate it. I mean, everyone's always trying to throw at me, well, the original series. I don't need to defend the original Star Trek, which is Star Trek, because it's existed for 54 years, more than half a century. So for you to, everyone's always going, well, the original Star Trek didn't do this as well. I'm like, yeah, because it was made in 1966 to 69. The world was different. Television had barely moved into color, and you have to allow for the evolution of culture. I mean, America, if you want to talk about a percentage of America's been around for 250 years. Well, 50 years is a good chunk of change in terms of America. So Star Trek, has it's been around for a while.
If you want an idea and perspective, I mean, when Star Trek premiered, Mickey Mantle was still an active player, and he had not yet hit his 500th home run.
Yep.
I mean, think about that. I mean, as far as history,
civil rights, all that. The pill was new, contraceptives were new. I mean, like that. It's crazy, and everyone always wants to throw. Although on one hand, I feel vindicated that Star Trek lives in a continuum, that people think of Star Trek as out of time.
Mm-hmm.
But the original series, which influenced me when I was growing up, the original series was 21 years old before the Next Generation happened, and it had been off the air for 10 years when the motion picture opened. And as a young child, I was supposed to like the fact that I got 22 animated episodes, where even I, as a 5, 6, 7-year-old, I'm like, ugh, animation. Where's the real Star Trek?
I remember there was a special on television. I can't remember. I think it was 2020 or whatever, when the Star Trek the Motion Picture premiered, and William Shatner was saying this very, very Shatner-esque way. He goes, well, when we were canceled, I said to the rest of the cast, don't worry, they'll bring us back in about 10 years, and we'll be doing movies and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. So don't worry. We'll be a cultural icon.
God love William Shatner. Shatner's the best at that, though. And by the way, he's proven that again and again and again. He's reinvigorated his life. Do you know that on March 22nd, 2021, William Shatner is going to be 90.
Oh, God bless him.
90 years old.
The best, yeah. I'm just so glad I got to see him at Star Trek Las Vegas. I got my picture taken with him. Yeah. And he told that story about somebody asked him a question. He goes, is it true that you stole food off of catering tables of other shows? Of course it's true. They had better stuff. We had no money. We had crackers and water. They had all the good stuff. Yeah.
It was funny. Like more than a decade ago, I saw Henry Rollins live in a spoken word show, and he.
By the way, he rules.
Rollins is awesome.
Rules.
So yeah, I've been at one concert with him, and I've been to like 3 of his spoken word shows, and I've had to travel far to get to most of them. But anyway, he spoke about his collaboration with William Shatner, which is freaking awesome. And he said like that he really admired Shatner because there was a guy that lived life to the fullest. Because he was about to become 80 years old. He didn't know how much he had left, but he was basically like someone that knew that the end was coming, and he was going to live every single day as if it was his last, and he respected him for it. And here we are now, more than a decade later, and Shatner is about to be 90, and he hasn't slowed down one bit.
I need to correct you, gentlemen. I'm going to be 21 with 69 years experience.
I'll tell you a Shatner story about the unmade Free Enterprise 2. We were doing I made this movie called Free Enterprise. We were going to do a sequel finally, and we were going to make it in 2010. And we thought it was financed and everything was good. And we were moving forward rapidly to production. And like the first film, we gave the script to Shatner, and we had a meeting at his office, and his office is on Ventura Boulevard, right across the street from this deli, Jerry's Deli. So we went and we're eating at Jerry's Deli, and Shatner's assistant called us and said, would you mind changing the venue of the meeting to the Equestrian Center in Burbank? the equestrian meaning where they ride horses. And we're like, no. So we go, Shatner's a horseman. He breeds horses. So we go to the equestrian center, and Mark Altman and I watched Shatner qualify for dressage, which is technical horse riding. Making technical. It's a very you're competing like in the Olympics, but dressage is very it's riding horseback, but making sure your riding is very technical. You have to do all of these different things, movements, actions. So we sat there for 3 hours and watched William Shatner qualify for this dressage. This is a Friday. Sunday was the competition. He's trying to qualify to be in the competition on Sunday. So we wait for 3 hours watching him be an expert horseman. This guy, I mean, he loves horses. And I'm watching him in this giant equestrian arena. I'm watching William Shatner ride horses at his behest. And then afterwards, we went to, he has a trailer where all the people that were riding horses are there. They have their own trailers. And he's like, oh, guys, great. I'm so happy you came down. And we were there because we thought that he would have notes for the script. He had one note, one line of dialogue he wanted changed. He just wanted us to watch him ride horses. But so we were sitting there and he goes, there's a thing called kookaroo. I don't know if you have it. Kookaroo is a chicken, it's not fast food really, but it's an in dining. He loves kookaroo. So he's ordered kookaroo and he's like, I've got chicken coming. Would you guys like to stay? And we're like, yeah, we'll stay. And we're talking to him and he's like, you guys are good. I love this script. It's insane. It's crazy what you've written. I can't wait to do this. And he only has one line change, which is fine. And we were like, okay, that's amazing. He went on that Sunday to win that competition against a 20-year-old girl. He beat her. He won that dressage, riding horses. It was the fact that he did that, and this was just 10 years ago, so he was 80. That he rides horses and precision horses and wins against someone who's 20 is all I need to know about my hero, William Shatner. The greatest regret in my life is I let him down. Our money fell through for Free Enterprise 2. He was very upset because he loved the script, and I did too. I was very excited to work with him again, but we never did. But my God, he beat a 20-year-old at 80 on horseback.
I'm sure that 20-year-old didn't mind to be beaten by Captain Kirk himself.
She didn't know who he was. Come on, dude. She's like, who is this guy? William Shatner? What?
Oh, then all the more reason why she deserved it.
Yeah.
Shatner is a force of nature. The fact that he's going to be 90, I mean, my God.
Indeed.
Amazing.
Indeed. But we have more super chats and they're not going anywhere. So let's see what other diversions we're able to get across. I'm just going to get back to where we were. Yes, here we are. Dark King 616 says, I am now the proud owner of the Star Trek, the original series, and Next Generation Blu-ray box sets. Kurtzman can go fornicate himself. Probably his lifelong ambition. So, yeah.
Don't forget to watch all the special features on the Next Generation box set.
You may see a familiar face.
Indeed.
Or a name.
You may.
You pop up at least once or twice in those, though?
I do. I on the second season, I do moderate a discussion with the entire crew of the Next Generation. Yeah, I do. I always forget that.
One day and I'm like, hey, I know that guy.
That was a highlight of my life too. By the way, we did that in Calgary, Canada. They have a great convention sci-fi explosion in Calgary. By the way, I love Canada. Every whether it's Winnipeg, Edmonton, Calgary. I've never been to Toronto, but I love Canada.
Yeah.
I love hearing this in the background. Are kids crying?
Yeah, there's a kid crying in the background. Sorry about that.
No, I love it. I love it.
So yeah,
his tears. We will drink his tears and grow stronger.
Yeah, exactly. He felt my frustration over Star Trek Discovery and woke him up. So yeah, and then my wife is going to feel that frustration too. So yeah, good times. Looking forward to afterwards, especially since I can't help right now. Moving on with the super chats. Mark C says, Robert, all of woke inclusion has a hierarchy. This is why Comicsgate and Fandom Menace exists. Yeah, that's a good point right there. And Imperial Lumpia. Exactly. It would be like asking someone from the Roman Empire to accept our sense of morals. Morals were just different. Morals are hard to change. Now, this is obviously in conjunction with the earlier Mirror Universe discussion.
Yeah.
And Dreamer Out There says for $5, Carl, the newspaper guy. He was a ripoff of Ascended Anubis in the end of Season 8 of Stargate SG-1. See Gagor Grin. He did a vid about it. No one I'm familiar with, I probably butchered pronunciation, but yeah, I'm sure the point stands. And Steve Lee says, I worry with more Star Wars and Marvel shows coming, CBS will try and play catch-up with more crap. I'd prefer quality over quantity, please. And Journey's End says, could a new production team retcon STD like Halloween? I'm curious, Rob, can you give us your thought on that? Could Star Trek Discovery ever be retconned or stricken from continuity at some point? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think so, because I mean it did happen, and you could relegate it to an alternate universe if you wanted to. My whole problem is they have made no concessions to the original series at all. Even when they had Captain Pike come back, Star Trek 09 embraced the red, blue, and gold tunics, even though they had the Delta Shield design on the patterns. They bought into that, and at least they embraced the fact that, okay, we're going to go back to the reason that Star Trek was so colorful in the 60s was because they wanted to sell color TVs. But Star Trek Discovery never, ever tried to create any design lineage from what came before to what happened. And I don't think you can reconcile it. You have to relegate it to an alternate universe. You have to send it away, like into the cornfield in the Twilight Zone. You're a bad man. Go to the cornfield. So
it's a very easy fix from my point of view. Basically, just relocate it to the prime timeline and be honest and say the prime timeline is a parallel universe. There, you've taken care of Picard and everything else. It's all prime. And the true timeline is the classic timeline, and the prime timeline was never that. There, problem solved. Moving on with the super chats, we had Ankaris says Voyager's Dr. Chaotica could walk right into Disco's mirror universe and fit right in. Bird of Prey 5 says one of the things that gets me about STD are characters that skip episodes. Where was Rin? Jet Reno has missed 3 or 4 episodes. Never a full cast. Well, does anyone really notice? They're all background characters. All they ever do is talk about how awesome Michael Burnham is.
Notice how they were able to talk about Lorca but not show him this episode as well.
Yeah, that was weird. That was weird.
That's because they either won't show him because, they have to pay to have him come in, or he'll show up in the second episode, and that way they only have to pay him for 1 instead of 2.
Well,
they got to pay all these 27 producers. They ain't got money for shit like a cast.
Well, what's weird about that is then, I mean, we already know. Are they going to show us when Lorca left the mirror universe to our universe? Do we need to see that? We already know it happened. So that's the funny thing.
That's going to help explain his convoluted plan. Then fuck no.
But this story is just something we already know. You know, we're just seeing we're seeing details filled in. It's not that interesting because we already know it's going to happen because it did happen. We went to the mirror universe. It's not like she's going to change. Like, she's in our universe. She's passed through the Guardian's doorway into a representation of the mirror universe. Do we know she's really there, or is she just a la Tapestry reliving events she already lived through? Like, we as viewers don't know. But I think fundamentally that makes that's a huge problem with the episode. It's like, did she really go back into her own past in an alternate universe? So the Guardian of Forever doesn't just clock time now. The other Guardian in the mirror universe, they talk. So you can go to the mirror universe. This is another problem I have with the episode. You're now raising many questions about time travel in the Star Trek universe. I know you don't care, but canonically, you need to have rules about time travel. This isn't just time travel. It's universe travel. So are you now saying that the Guardian of Forever, if quantum physics is real, can the Guardian of Forever show you the timeline for every universe? And like, when I'm watching this, they didn't even bother to explain any of it. So I'm like, fuck all y'all. You don't know the answers. You don't know.
Care.
You haven't told us. She's gone back in time, but if it's just a representation like Tapestry, where Q has shunted you back, you can't do anything anyway. There's nothing you can really do. We're watching this going, oh, we're seeing something that already played out, right? And if you can actually affect, like the Guardian has shown us, if you go back in time like McCoy did, you can affect the past. But how can you, if she affects the past in the mirror universe, how does that matter in our universe? It doesn't. Yeah. It has no bearing. And by the way, whatever she did in that mirror universe after going through the portal, she's still here to actually go through the portal. So whatever happens in the past doesn't make any difference because she was still here in the 32nd century to go back into the past. She's not going to just suddenly disappear.
Yeah.
Their answer to that would be, these are fictional characters. You can do whatever you want.
And I noticed this too. No, you can't. Up here. When she went back, her old clothes showed up, but she still had that fucking bracelet on. I noticed that too.
Dude, that shit is so... This is terrible, terrible science fiction writing because they're not thinking about that. How does she go back?
They're thinking two-dimensionally.
By the way, why is it, by the way, as established in the City on the Edge Forever, when Kirk and Spock and McCoy go back in time, they don't get new uniforms. They're still wearing what they wore because I mean, you're going back. It's still you. You're not going back in time, and you don't get transported into. You're not the character that you were back then. You're the character from the future that's gone back to that timeline. So suddenly you would find yourself wearing, the same shit.
Yeah.
And
just like Star Trek 4, yeah.
A fundamental lack of understanding of time travel. It's so annoying. And when you watch this stuff, you're like, have you even thought about time travel? Have you watched any time travel movie? Back to the Future. Why are you wearing a life preserver? I mean, give me a fucking break.
Exactly. No, and yeah, just like I said, and even back in Star Trek 4, when the most fundamental way of time traveling, just going back in time. Yeah, like I'll give them the excuse that this is probably not a real thing. Like she's probably in some kind of like she didn't really go back in time. Like I think they're gonna try and treat like the Guardian more like a Q. She might be, she might not be. I don't know. I have a feeling there's some kind of catch to this whole thing.
I don't think they know.
But I know you know more than we know, or at least
I don't know that. I honestly, all I know is that he's supposed to be the Guardian forever, and based on Harlan Ellison's conception of the Guardian, which, by the way, was rewritten for a reason. So what they're doing now is they're going back. They're not only retconning the Guardian, they're retconning him back to the original script that was rejected and rewritten because Harlan Ellison is Harlan Ellison. And remember, the people that have written this, the conception of these 2 episodes, are the showrunners of Section 31. So basically, we are watching the backdoor pilot for Section 31.
Yeah, we have assumed that too when you brought that up before. And Darth Maul brings up another point just about physics and stuff here is like the fact that when Georgiou goes back to the past, if she is in fact going back to the past, she technically couldn't change anything because it's already its own time that without creating an alternate timeline.
That's right.
So like, yeah, I mean, because I've even gotten into this argument about time travel, bringing up Back to the Future about how, even though they don't address it, but basically every time Marty goes back, he goes back to he never goes back to the same time he came from. It's always an alternate time when he comes back, basically. So yeah, every time. But anyhow, same kind of thing here. You can't do that. It just doesn't work that way. Even if time travel were possible, there's just the scientific physics of it are not possible to do. It creates a paradox instantly.
Well, I mean, I've always believed that if you're a time traveler, even if you went back in time, it's still your future. So like,
it creates a paradox.
I'm a certain, so really going back in time, you're not really going back to your past because you can't. And I really thought Avengers Endgame did a good job about this when they explain you can't go back to your own past because going back in time is your future. So where you're going back to, it's not where you came from. It's different. It's your future.
Yeah, I've actually brought that up to people who's like, I don't like Endgame. It's like, yeah, I get that. And they're like, yeah, well, the time travel doesn't make sense. I'm like, it doesn't on the first viewing, but I've rewatched it a couple times.
It makes sense.
I've liked it more and more on rewatching. Because it kind of does make a little more sense once you think about it from the fundamental point of view of if time travel actually did exist. You're right.
Well,
you're going to your future, and even though it's the past,
yes, the time traveler himself is moving into his future. Like just because I've gone into the past, I'm still aging, and so my act of going into the past is actually something that I'm doing in the future. Like I'm moving, so you're not like retarding you're not retarding your age or anything like that. You're actually going into your own future, and that act is in fact going into the past. So the past that you're going to is not your past, it's a past.
Exactly.
So you can't affect it, really.
And anyway, not to get into that wormhole.
And it is one.
It is, yeah. Andre, how many more super chats did we have to catch up here? Because I know it's getting really late for you.
Many. We have.
I'll shut up.
Yeah, we have quite a few. But many of these actually do invite conversation, though.
That's the thing. I want to give people
that's the thing, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see. Where were we? Almost there. Here we go. Steve Lee says, The sound design so different from old Trek. Sounds of phasers, etc. is so Star Wars. At least Star Wars has consistent sound design. And Storm King says, if you had to change one thing that would improve STD, what would it be? Love the discussions and please stay safe. Okay, guys, real short. R&B, let's begin with you. If you could change one thing with STD, what would it be?
The writing. I would hire an entirely new writing staff, personally curated by me, based on all of the writers I would choose are all working writers in Hollywood right now, and I would poach them and have them write for Star Trek.
I will agree completely with Robert on that one, so he can have my point as well.
I'll go big farther. I'll just say, just make it not exist at all. Like, just cancel it, get rid of it, done, change it.
Have them admit that that prime timeline is not classic. There, so
whatever it takes to get rid of it. Yes.
Yeah. Rob, you got anything?
I'd say, barring cancellation, I'd say the writing as well.
Well, my thing is just the whole idea of Discovery adds so many more issues to the TOS, era and all that kind of stuff as it is. So like,
they're trying to replace it.
Exactly.
They keep Discovery, Strange New Worlds, and Section 31 are all from the 23rd century. They're literally trying to overlay. They want to get rid of original Star Trek. And
they want to overwrite it is what they want to do.
That's exactly right. They want to overwrite it. And it's insidious, and I find it disgusting and creatively bankrupt. Fuck them.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, you are absolutely in the right place for it. So there's that. And moving on from that, next super chat is from Darth Plato, who sends us $10. That contributes to keeping the light on, very much so. So thanks for that. And he says, R&B is right. Like how Homer wrote about monsters and exotic people on islands in the Aegean, so does the original series tell stories about aliens and monsters in the ocean of space. The original series is our modern classic.
I love you.
Yes,
I love you.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
We park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay, sir.
And Steve Lee says, they've scared away great writers like Fuller and Meyer, and the list goes on. It does indeed, doesn't it? Dark King 616 says, anyone know how to contact Stephen Walton? I'm still waiting on my copy of The Phantom Menace, and I can't get any response from him. Well, I'm sure Tom can reach out, can't you?
Yeah, copy and paste that. Well, I need to get the person's email. So DM me on Twitter. I'll put my Twitter in the chat here, and I'll see what I can do for you.
Yeah. And Christopher Fries says, STD, too many producers, too few creatives, and too focused on agenda. Season 3's blank slate could have been great.
It could have. God damn it.
So sad.
I wanted to be. I was so excited. I was so excited because obviously, as people have accused me of, oh, you don't like Star Trek Discovery because you pitched an idea. No, I never pitched any idea. I did come up with an idea that Brian Singer and Chris McQuarrie and I thought about, and I had writer Jeffrey Thorne, who's written a great Star Trek novel. We never pitched it, but it was all about, surprisingly, the Federation in the year 3000. I don't know. I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but I'm not bitter about it. But I'm like, great minds think alike. I just think that what has been done with that idea is woefully lacking in terms of imagination. So there you go.
Yeah, indeed. There you go. And moving on from that, Sean M says for $10, thank you so much.
Wow.
Two things made The Next Generation a great TV show. One, the relatively open door for scripts and talented screenwriters. 2, the showrunners knew when to follow the rules and when to break or bend them. Yeah, those are 2 very good points.
Yep.
And Gonzalo Sasueta says, in 2013, George Lucas predicted that movie tickets would cost $150 movies would look like Broadway shows and everything else would be on VOD. And he may still be right. Might he not?
He's right.
Yeah. And Insane Hippie Insane also sends us $10. Thank you so very much. We really appreciate that. Says, CBS needs to do what Games Workshop does with the independent content creators and fan-made content. Hire them if they can do great content that fits the setting of the IP. Indeed. That's how they hired some of the original writers. And indeed, for Next Generation, we're just finding people that submitted and did awesome.
No, it's true. But it's a bigger proposition. I mean, it's one thing to be a fan of something, but working within the business of Hollywood is very different. And I think that's very problematic. But not to say that fan filmmakers shouldn't be there, but it's a very different animal. It's just not the same thing.
There you go. And let's see. Bongo Beer PS Vita says, have you noticed Dan Harmon on Kurt's Now You See Me? That would be Kurtzman's. I have never noticed any such thing. I've never seen it, so I can't answer that one. Has anyone noticed Damon Harmon on Kurtzman's Now You See Me?
I have not.
The answer is no, we have not. Max Relax says, $5 to support the show. From my subjective point of view, Kathleen Kennedy is evil. Yeah, well, that's certainly that's one opinion, absolutely. And Adam Wofford says, here's my question. Why hasn't Tom Cruise directed his own movie? I would think he might be able to pull it off. You're the only one that has spoken with him, Mr. Burnett. What do you say to that?
I would say because he's not a director. You know, it's funny that I think one of the great things I think that Tom Cruise does not get credit for is he knows his strengths and he collaborates with directors. And what he wants is strong-minded directors. But he's an actor, you know, and he knows he's an actor. And by the way, he's been working in the business for the better part of 4 decades. So most of the directors that he's worked with have not nearly the experience he does. So I think that he is content to be an actor, but now he knows what works and what doesn't. He knows his strengths and he knows what they are, and he wants to make sure they're accentuated because it's a business. He wants to make sure that his brand, Tom Cruise, by the way, is a brand. And when he's making something like Top Gun Maverick, not Tom Cruise Maverick, even though it should be Tom Cruise Maverick, he knows that what he's selling is a brand. He's selling something that he is first and foremost in front of, and he wants to make sure it's great. And I think that he knows that he's like, I'm not a director, but he knows enough because he's been on the front lines. He knows what a good director does, and he knows what a not so good director does. So if he has to step in the way he did on The Mummy, perhaps, he knows what he has to do. But I don't think he wants to direct because he would have if he did. He's content to be an actor because that's what he knows he wanted to do.
Yeah, there you go. And also Roger Haynes, in response to what you said earlier, Rob.
By the way, I'm just going to I'm still here. Don't I'll come right back.
Let's say as for the Tom Cruise thing, he might just wait till he's a little older too. Because I mean, Clint Eastwood didn't even start directing until what, his 50s, late 40s. I mean, he could just be waiting until he's a little older when he can't do so much on screen. He'll get maybe behind the camera. He's somebody I could definitely see making like that kind of a transition to where he's more behind the script, more behind directing and just doing a few movies here and there as he gets older. Because I don't think I ever really see somebody like Tom Cruise retire. You know what I mean?
Probably not, but yeah, we'll see as time goes by. But we'll move on. We're in the home stretch now, but we have a few more to get through. Professor Afonso says they copied Doctor Who. Yeah, everything else I might add into that. And Diego Flores says in 40K, clones done by Fabius Bile are identical even to the memories, and still you have many cases where they develop independently. And this is something that these writers could take a lesson from. And Miguel Hernandez says, what if Prime Trek is a mirror of real Trek? Well, it kind of is, isn't it? That would be the implication of the contractual things that goes a little bit beyond what happens on screen. But yeah, I think it is because of that. And the DCV Titan says, forget the question mark. To the true genius was the interrobang. Also, did they retrofit the Discovery, or is it still centuries-old weapons and shields? No, they retrofitted it. Remember, we saw this on screen, how it now has like floating nacelles and everything. It was really stupid. So they retrofitted the ship, but they didn't debrief the crew on basic stuff like that Vulcan is no longer Vulcan and no longer part of the Federation. So yeah, good planning there. Good writing. And Anti-Derivative Jill sent us a super sticker of unicorn, so thanks for that. And Adam Wofford says, so STD ripped off the Dark Tower. What's next? Yeah, just wait and we shall see. And Aaron Telford says, how can Discovery be made alternative universe? As I said before in Discovery, the planet Vulcan still exists, making Discovery properly Prime Universe. But here's the thing. Prime Universe is not the same thing as the classical Star Trek. I mean, the original series is not Prime. Deep Space Nine is not Prime. Voyager is not Prime. The Next Generation is not Prime. This is a lie that you have been led to believe.
It's their representation of it. It's
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. I can tell you, Prime, this is what Prime is. Star Trek Picard is Prime. Discovery is Prime. The flashback sequences of Spock Prime is Prime. But that's it. There is all the Star Trek from before 2005 is not Prime. It never was. That's a lie that you have been led to believe.
Agreed.
Yeah. And MW77 says, have you guys seen Star Trek Continues? I have not, so that's my answer, but I'm sure some of you have.
I have, and I have to say, it's an 11-episode fan film series, and it's, I have to say, delightful. Now, there's only a few episodes I think are terrific. Again, it comes back to the writing, but every episode, there is such a Grant Imahara played the late Grant Imahara played Sulu, and there is so much love for the original Star Trek in Star Trek Continues in those 11 episodes. I would recommend them to anyone. There's two. I think it's Lolani, and then there is Here There Be Dragons. These are the wrong episode titles, but those are great episodes. I mean, they're recreating the original series, and it bridges the gap from the end of TOS to the motion picture, and it's beautifully done. It really is. And if you want to watch a fan series or whatever, it's the pinnacle in my mind, it's the pinnacle of all Star Trek fan films.
Yeah. I think Rob's seen the show. I've never actually watched it, but I've Vic.
I've seen a few episodes. They're very well done. Although Lonely was the one I saw too.
Yeah, I mean, because that was original. It wasn't a sequel. It wasn't it's good.
Yeah. And next, Roger Haynes. He had a comment to what you said earlier, Rob, which I fully concur with, or at least partially. He says, Robert, yeah, you sure hijack, but it's relevant AF. So no need to apologize, good sir. That's the part I agree with completely.
Well, you guys, I'm here at your pleasure, so I don't, I don't want
to. And you also speak at your pleasure, and we always listen to what you have to say with great interest.
Well, you were here before me, and so I'm just honored to be here.
Never changes, no matter how many times you're on. So you should know that by now. So
no, it's true, and I have to thank you. I mean, it's you know what I feel like being on Midnight's Edge is like. It's like being at a literary sci-fi convention like Worldcon, and you're off the convention floor, and you've gone to the bar, and you find yourself amongst like 8, whether they're luminaries or whether they're fans, and you spend the next 8 hours talking about fandom and the stuff you love, and then it's 3 a.m. and people are like kicking you out of the bar. Because you've spent 8 hours talking about like warp drives and various iterations of things. That's what Midnight's Edge is. Midnight's Edge to me is the channel, like all great science fiction conventions, where you get to go and you get to geek out and you get to talk about the shit that you love with people that are like-minded and enjoy this stuff as much as you do. And it's like being at a convention. It's fantastic. I love it so much.
Awesome. Yeah, and we love having you here. So you're welcome to stay here until we're kicked out at 3 o'clock in the morning.
I mean, look at the comments. Look at the live chat. Even it's the same thing. You have an ecosystem, a bunch of fans who come in and they talk and they chat and they chat amongst each other and they send super chats, and it's pretty great.
Well, I look
pretty awesome.
We've been here for almost 3 hours now, and we've had almost 1,000 people stick with us this whole time. So that's amazing, and we thank you guys for sticking with us. And we're gonna get through these super chats. And
yeah, we're in the home stretch now.
Let Andre go to bed and Rob get back to work, because I know
it's actually fast approaching 3 a.m. where I
know. I'm sorry.
It's nothing like time zones really aren't your fault. So yeah. And Crispy Critter says, a show as rudimentary as Futurama and the Time Tunnel respect the rules of time travel. And Cedric Taylor 08 says, except for the original series, Deep Space Nine Enterprise Mirror is lazy writing for STD.
There was one moment though on Futurama where Fry was his own grandfather, and he says, "Oh, but we can't change history." Oh, now you're worried about changing history. You go screw history, and they just went for it. So at least they admitted it though.
Exactly.
Screw history.
Max Relax says, sending a super chat to a failing venture would be illogical. Well, thank you. Thanks for supporting us, though. We really appreciate that. And Christian Sander says, thanks to you, I now have 4 hours of sleep left. Oh, you get 4 hours?
Wow.
I'll be lucky if I get 3. So, yeah. Well, of course, by the time in between him sending it and now, he was probably going to get closer to
hopefully
3.
Sleeping now, or if not, hopefully you get to bed soon so you get some sleep. 3 hours at least.
And Paul Wong says, watching the alternative factor again, I think Lazarus became the bridge for the mirror universe to cross over.
I have to say something. I'm going to admit this. I'm going to admit this publicly. The alternative factor is a terrible, terrible episode of Star Trek, but I love it.
Yeah, Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
There's something about it.
I mean, at the beginning, the universe winks out. I mean, Admiral Comac and all, but and what of Lazarus? I mean, alternate universes. I understand people. It's terrible. Even the people that worked on Star Trek, Roddenberry thought it was terrible. But Rob, you and I might be the only people that will defend the alternative factor.
I don't know what it is about the alternative factor. I mean, it's just something about you. It's like you got when it's on, you have to watch every single frame.
That's why I love the dulcet tones of your voice on Midnight's Edge videos. That's why I listen to you, because you and I park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay, man. We love the alternative factor, by God.
Kapla!
Kapla. Everyone's like, oh, they just lost all their credibility. No,
well,
I love that.
We have a room for differing opinions. So that's pretty cool right there. And moving on from there, we have Trenchman, who says, "Why is a show about peace so violent?" Well, I don't know, but there is. Well, I think basically this is like the Pax Morgan, not necessarily peaceful. And then we got 2 super chats back to back from Roger Haynes, or 2 more, I should say, because he's supported us earlier, who's now sending us an accumulated 10 Canadian dollars between these 2. So thanks for that, plus what was before. And then he says, yeah, they want to do their own thing and steal Spock, the bastards. And then he follows that up with, oh, fan films. How was Star Trek Renegades?
It was fine. You know, it had a lot of great actors, some production value. It was good. I mean, I'll tell you what Star Trek Renegades did. They crowdfunded and they delivered to their fans. Unlike, oh wait, something I was involved with that hasn't yet. So good on them.
Yeah, well, we wouldn't know anything about that. Nudge, wink, wink. Say no more.
Yeah, no, I did all I could.
That's going to be interesting to see how that continues to develop. But yeah, we'll hear more.
We'll see.
Sure. Yeah,
but you can go to my channel and you can see the work I did before we stopped. It's all there.
I will say that was a true. It was a loss to Star Trek fans everywhere. That did not happen. But
not just that, the damage it caused all around.
Oh, but don't you know it's still happening? It's going to get done.
Sure, I know it is. That's why yeah.
Although I will say you can watch 50 minutes of documentaries on my own YouTube channel if you're interested in the Star Trek Axanar project. What I was doing, working on it, I did make 3 different videos. You can see and watch them.
Yeah, so everyone head on over to the Burnett work to check that out. As for Super Chats, we're in the home stretch, but we have 2 more. Captain Robert April says, Rob, remember the AOL message boards? Because now we got to the point where I actually can do this on screen.
Oh, my God. Okay, first of all, Rick Berman, the man who shepherded Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise, Rick Berman told me something very interesting. You can watch it if you have the Blu-rays. Rick Berman said the internet was created basically by 2 things: people talking about Star Trek and pornography. and I have to say, the AOL message boards about Star Trek, and Ron Moore would go into them. We're talking, early to mid 90s. If you were a Star Trek fan, you went on the AOL message boards as soon as something aired, because my God, to me, the internet was Star Trek. Before there was anything, the only reason I went onto the internet, pornography download times didn't interest me. I was already over my feelings before I could download something, but Star Trek man, talking about it in real time around the world with other fans, amazing. The AOL message boards were the place to go. And if I had nothing to do on a Sunday or Saturday or Friday night, I lived on those message boards. By God, yes, I did.
Evidently remember them. And Steve Lee says, for almost 14 Canadian dollars, thank you so much. Happy holidays to you all, and thanks for exploring the ideas you explore and providing a safe space for constructive criticism and engaging discourse. So important today. Glad to be a fan.
I don't know how
to have you and everyone else that are watching.
I don't know how safe it is, but
well,
I'll never work
that
again.
You won't be attacked.
You won't be attacked by us. That's for sure.
This is true.
But I wouldn't say we necessarily have a safety net underneath us or anything here.
Yeah, no, that we regrettably cannot provide. But there we lost the no. Oh yeah, and here we have the next one is from Dan Henry. He also have 4 hours left to sleep, but hey ho, that's time zones for you. And Adam Wofford says, I have another question. How is everyone else getting around without warp drive, knowing the everyone that doesn't have the stolen drive?
That's a very good question.
I don't think they thought about it, to be honest.
Well,
no, yeah.
Their dystopian future, they just make it up as they go along. They didn't stop and go, like, okay, so dilithium burned up. And then they're like, well, that's when subspace communications failed. Well, why did that happen? Did the Epsilon 9 station, as we saw in Star Trek The Motion Picture, this gigantic array that presumably broadcasts, it catches signals and enhances and broadcasts them across the galaxy. Why would subspace communications be destroyed? Well, because it needs to be. And what I can't stand, this season of Discovery has a generic The Burn, and The Burn is all-encompassing. Whether it starts out, well, dilithium was destroyed. Well, now we don't have subspace communications. Now, wait a minute. Those two things do not have anything to do with one another. Why does it? Oh, no.
They killed the Wi-Fi in Sector 7.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, they have made this. This is why I can't stand the show. Because no one sat down and said, okay, we're going to go to the 32nd century from our Star Trek universe in the 23rd century. What has changed? Let's extrapolate. Let's talk about, like, where is Vulcan? Like, oh, we saw, okay, well, it's now called Navarre, and Romulans are second-class citizens. They're the alien trash of the galaxy the Vulcans let in, which makes no sense. The Vulcans would be at the forefront of figuring out what happened. And then they're like, well, the Emerald Chain. By the way, let's take like our green people and make them bad. Because, hey, we did that in Enterprise, so the Orions 1,000 years later, let's make the colored people bad. Oh, wait, not our colored people, but other colored people. They're bad. And it goes from there. So it's all generic. It's generic. There's no one ever thought, like, okay, if here's where the Star Trek universe was in the 23rd century, where would it be in the 32nd? And apparently no one thought about it. Let's just make it a generic disaster, and we'll tailor it to every story we want to tell. People are like, hey man, that poor guy who was on that station in the beginning of the season, who spent 40 years of his life being about Starfleet, you couldn't take the Discovery and pick him up and bring him to Starfleet headquarters and be like, bruh, we really appreciate your service. Welcome to Starfleet headquarters. This poor guy is still getting up every morning and going, I'm trying to keep, I mean, come on.
That's what irritates me the most with it. Like here, Michael Burnham said, you're the most Starfleet officer I ever met. You're as Starfleet as any of them. And then she finds the real Star Trek, and she just leaves him there. She just left him. She left him there to continue his life of pointless, wasteless servitude.
I mean,
just like the rest of his family before him.
Can you imagine? Like, I would have done an entire episode of Star Trek Discovery where you go pick that dude up, and then he comes back, and he's and you just it's kind of like there's an episode of TNG called Data's Day where he talks to Bruce Maddox from Measure of Man, and he's explaining his day. You could do that episode with that dude where he's been rescued after 40 years on this station, and now he's at Starfleet headquarters, and you do a whole episode called whatever his name is, His Day. And he walks around and he's like, I spent 40. Basically, he was in prison and he's let out. And I love that guy. I'm sure the last episode of this season will be they finally jump and get him and take him home. And he's like, I'm home. And I'm like, no, that dude deserves an episode. Come on, bring him on.
Absolutely. To me, it was like completely.
He's never been brought up again. He's like one guy that's on the frontier supporting Starfleet. You'd think he'd be the first person that you go get. He'd be like, well, I've got 40 years of information about what's gone on in this sector of space that you might need to know. But no.
And to me, I thought it was like just a ridiculous character too. Like I like to say, it's like someone here on Earth today sitting around at an office in Italy and waiting for an emissary from the Roman Empire.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the what I equate it to. But yeah,
you're absolutely right. But being that he's there, I like that guy, and he's just another example about why the show is horribly written. Terribly, indeed. terribly written.
Indeed. And Mr. Tickle Trunk sent us another super sticker. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate the support. And Steve Lee says, it would be poignant if you could talk to others, but not travel to see them. A future of not just a lonely planet, but lonely planets.
I love that idea. That's a great idea. I mean, can you imagine? We talk about a show like Star Trek has always been best when it's allegorical. Now, we, as our society has proven today, we have become a Zoom culture where we do business virtually. We're not in the same room with people. You can't even smell a woman's perfume, or even like a dude's cologne if he has good cologne on. We don't have that. And yet, the Discovery universe is exactly that. We can only talk to people virtually. We have no warp drive. We can't go. And wouldn't that have been interesting? That for 150 years, the galaxy has only been people talking to each other through Zoom?
And that brings us right to Mr. Tickle Trunk's next super chat. RMB's problem is that he has imagination, unlike the writers of Star Trek Discovery. And then Orville Nation said for $10, thank you so much for the support. Question to the panel: isn't it worrisome that all African-American female leads in New Trek are portrayed as insubordinate and irresponsible officers who never would have made it to the Academy?
They all know better. You can't tell them, and you can't tell them anything else. The other thing too about there was a Fiat ad where they used to bring their car to Tony's to fix it again, Tony. Remember that old adage about Fiat? And they used to stand around. Where is it the sexy? Oh, where is it the sexy? Where is it the sexy? That is what this iteration of Star Trek is missing. Where is it the sexy?
It's missing more than that.
Well, that's but that encompasses a lot of
No,
things.
but basically what Orville Nation's saying here, and by the way, how you doing, Orville Nation? Is basically what every single episode of Lower Decks we reviewed. We said that every single episode, not just the leads, but every character. It's like we find it hard to believe that any of these characters were smart enough to ever get through the academy, and we get it. It's supposed to be a dumb comedy show, but we also pointed out that unless you're going to do a satire, which this was not, this was something that does take place in Trek canon in quotation. Right. You have to still build on that, and you can do humor within the Star Trek universe. You can't do Rick and Morty or airplane type humor in the Star Trek universe and have us take it seriously, because none of those characters could exist in real life without killing each other. It just wouldn't work. And you have a lot of the same problems in Discovery. There's a great big portion of the cast or the crew, however you want to put it, that their characters are so unbelievable that, like, Tilly's a prime example. How the fuck does Tilly get promoted over all the other people on the crew that are way ahead of her?
Or why wouldn't you ask Starfleet Command for an officer from the 32nd century?
More sense, yes.
That could be your second in command, so you would know where the universe is. I mean, what's so weird about this show is they believe that the Discovery, not just Burnham is messianic, but now the Discovery literally is God with the merging of AI information. And I'm like, my God, you people have written a show where your main character and your ship, your main character and your setting are magical, and they can answer any question. Why would you do that? Like, and here's the thing. What I really can't stand is people accuse me like, oh, you're just an old white cis male, so you don't like. Look, man, let me tell you, I have no problem with very hot, beautiful black women. I don't. But you know what? If they're not written well, you're underserving the cause of every beautifully attractive, intelligent black woman. You're turning them into a token. You're turning them in. The people who are writing Star Trek Discovery think that they have something to say for a black woman's experience in our world today. And I'm like, I don't think you really do. I don't think Michael Burnham is at all analogous to a single mom living in Detroit, a black woman living in Detroit. I don't think so. And what you are writing, your messianic vision of her, is really bad, and it's actually hurting any kind of woke or messaging you want to convey. I really believe that, and it's very problematic.
Very much so.
Yeah. Indeed, I don't have anything to add to it at all.
None. It's probably a good place. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and Roger Haynes says, kind of curious if you guys ever played any Star Trek games. Anything decent? I liked Wind Trek. I have never played a Star Trek game, so I cannot comment on this one.
And I damn near got everybody killed. What the hell is it called? The VR one, Rob?
The bridge thing?
Simulator, whatever it is.
Simulator one, yeah. Because you can do other bridges besides the 2009 bridge. But yeah, it's kind of fun.
I played the 25th anniversary game apparently 29 years ago. I like that game.
I mean, I've played a lot of like the earlier Nintendo and Super Nintendo games, but I never really got into them because they were just, the entry level was so high. Like I just wasn't old enough at that point. Now, if I tried them now, I might get more into them. But I think Star Trek is an arena that has been very underutilized in video games as far as the possibilities of what you can do.
There is a Star Trek game that I have always wanted. I have wanted, like, I wish that someone could make like a game. You know how you have like a GoldenEye games and stuff like that.
Oh, so good! One of the best.
Yeah,
N64 games
if
ever.
Someone could make a game like that for like PlayStation 5 and whatever the new Xbox thing, from Star Trek, the original series, with the likeness and everything like that from the actors at that time, full of color and all the craziness, and with the fighting system, Kirk Fu, where a significant mechanic is throwing yourself at the wall and then bouncing back at the enemy and all the stuff like that, and with the karate chops and everything.
Wait a minute. I have to say, Andre, I think that's a fantastic idea. And Star Trek has already presented the milieu. You're on Vulcan. It's from Amok Time when Kirk fights Spock. Dun, 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 dun. For whatever reason, the Vulcans have decided to open up Mount Salea, and it's Mortal Kombat on Vulcan in that arena, and it's all Star Trek characters. It's the Gorn, fights the Mugatu. I'm telling you, and it's all on Vulcan, but it's Mortal Kombat. And T'Pau, you have T'Pau. Is the you have Celia Lofsky over. She presides over this, and Vulcan. Canonically, Vulcan opens up their borders because they see personal combat as logical and part of fighting, whatever your reason is. But you make it that arena, the same arena from Amok Time. Dude, I would love to see that game, and you could have every character. You could have Nausicaans that cause Picard to have his heart, tuned out. I mean, that would be awesome. A Mortal Kombat game
from the animated series.
Dude, the Cations, awesome. That would be, which is one of them is in Lower Decks. And you make it like Vulcan. The premise is canonically Vulcan opens up, they open up and they're like, they appreciate, they love art, but you know what? Personal combat, martial arts is something that Vulcans admire. And we open up the galaxy, come to Vulcan and fight in the sacred arena. Dude, I want to see that game, man. Make that game. Why can't somebody do that game? And it's Mortal Kombat in the Star Trek universe, and it can be canonical. That would be awesome.
There you go. So to sum it up, no, there's no good Star Trek games, but we just gave you two great ideas right now.
There you go.
And welcome, Script Doctor.
Hi, I'm surprised you guys are going after 3 hours, but I mean, it's Star Trek, so I could also talk for 3 hours as well. So it's great to be here. How's everybody doing tonight, and how are we recovering after that terrible episode?
I'm recovering so badly that I will be checking out because I have to get up again in just a few hours because time's so crap. But now that you're here, Script, to replace me, then I don't feel so bad. So that's good.
Well, we only got a couple more super chats left anyway.
We are up to date on the one that's on screen, and we have like a few more after that. I'll send them to you in the private chat here just to make sure that we don't miss them.
Well, I know there's some other things getting started, so we should probably wrap up either way. So let's see here. What was the next one after the Alpha J one? Is it this one or
wait? We didn't answer that though.
Oh, we didn't. Oh,
what's our favorite Star Trek game?
Oh, no, Alpha J talks about these are the voyages. He's citing. So there's a guy named Mark Cushman, and yes, Cash Markman. Yes, Mark Cushman has directed pornographic films. That doesn't mean that his books, These Are the Voyages, he wrote meticulously researched books on the history of Star Trek, the first and the second and third seasons, and Star Trek in the 70s. I have to tell you, if you could chop up the pages of a book and snort them the way Tony Montana snorts cocaine, that's what these books are like. You have to get and what Alpha J is talking about, the audiobook version of it. These Are the Voyages. He is right. He is correct. Now, I haven't listened to the audiobook, but the actual physical book, I took it to bed with me one night, and I thought, I'll read it for a couple of hours. Bruh. I read the entire book. It was 8 hours. I went from darkness to light. I was late to work that day. Amazing. Alpha J 3.0, you are correct, sir. And thank you for supporting Midnight's Edge.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump over. I thought that was the last super chat.
There's this is now the next one that is not yet addressed, and then it's the one after that. So yeah.
Marvel Nation comes in again with another $5. Thank you. How come Ensign Harry Kim or Ensign Wesley Crusher weren't promoted first officer by Janeway or Picard? Well, it's a rhetorical question, but yeah, that was kind of the whole thing. Is like, of all the people on the ship, and I like Robert's point too. Is you're in this new, time period. Don't you think it would make more sense to have somebody on the ship who actually knows the time period?
By the way, like, have a great actor come on board as the second officer. I mean, the reason Harry Kim and Wesley Crusher weren't promoted is because they weren't in the 32nd century. Apparently, every kid really does get a trophy 1,000 years in the future.
Well, not only that, Tilly doesn't even act like a first officer. She acts like the captain's yeoman.
Indeed.
Yeah. Cedric Taylor, 08, says with $5, what happened to the temporal Starfleet? This should have been stopped or investigated.
Well, okay. What's really interesting, they talk here's a failure of imagination. They talk about the temporal Cold War, right? The temporal Cold War Accords. Did no one go into the future? I mean, wouldn't they know this happened? And their thinking is that, well, up until the 31st century, when the temporal Cold War Accords were happening, that no one went, like, if you can time travel, apparently you only go into the past. Why wouldn't you go into the future? And if you could go into the future and find out the burn happened, why didn't the temporal Cold War people, why didn't the Suliban figure, well, fuck it, man, I don't want the burn to happen? No one went into the future and found out. Nobody went back to the actual moment in time when the burn. You've got Michael Burnham getting black boxes from starships, which, by the way, is the dumbest idea ever. Dumbest idea ever. And she's like, oh my God, we can calculate exactly when the burn happened. We're 150 years past that. Time travel was a thing. And everyone's like, you know what? The Temporal Accords didn't happen. Are you telling me in 150 years, nobody, we've got the green, the Orion, the Emerald Syndicate or whatever, nobody went back in time to find out why the burn happened? Oh, because wait, that would be illegal? You don't think the Vulcans have fucking time travel? Are you kidding me?
Right.
1,000 years? You don't think the Vulcans like, well, fuck it, let's go find out what this. It is so stupid. It is so stupid in the Star Trek universe where people are like, we don't know where we have the Temple Accords. You came from the past, so you're the fact that you're here violates. Like, give me a break. We're now on a planet where some dude is a time travel, is the guardian of forever. He has newspapers and is dressed from the 19th century. The fact that nobody used the light speed breakaway effect to go back in time to find out why did the burn happen? Are you kidding me? After the Temporal Accords, well, we don't time travel anymore. Well, how about what's really funny is apparently the burn happened before or after the Temporal Accords. So, it's like Starfleet had an entire the Department of Temporal Investigations, as we saw in Deep Space Nine. Nobody could travel back in time and figure this shit out. Oh. It is the dumbest shit ever.
Well, not only that, wasn't there an episode of Voyager where the people from like the 29th century could see into the future and follow like the time stream, so they knew how events were going to happen? And that was one of the things where the captain found out that he was also a criminal in the future.
we don't.
devs, the episode, the devs.
Oh, I mean,
The technology in that show shows that you can figure out now how the future will work, and apparently in the future they can't figure that shit out.
We don't time travel anymore. How about? Oh, but in this case, given the circumstances, we'll make an exception. That's. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's against the law. We won't do it. Same thing with Picard and the stupidity.
Speaking of exception, I have to check.
Yeah, I was going to say anyway. I think this Mr. Tickle Trunk's last super chat is a great super chat to go out on. Actually, it says, "Hey, Star Trek, hire R&B, hire script doctor." There you go. That's a good way to fix Star Trek. I don't think there's a better way to put it. Even though I know Robert will be a little humble about that, I don't think there's too many more people other than these two gentlemen here on the panel who are more equipped to handle the job. And you do yourselves a good favor to check out their YouTube channels as well. Speaking of these two individual gentlemen, the Burnett Work and Script Doctor both have their own channel.
I want to collaborate with Script Doctor. I think we should do a story or a show analyzing story.
Oh no, I think we do. I have a list. I'm gonna send it to you. it's a little longer than I was expecting.
Well, you know what? We should do it.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, we should absolutely.
We can keep chit chatting, but I'm gonna let this audience go because I know Gary and Doomcock are starting, and everybody's probably getting antsy to head over there, and Andre's got to get to bed, and Rob's probably ready to pass out himself. So, and I know you guys have been so patient with us, and I appreciate everybody sticking with us and all the super chats. And until next time,